participation in forums like the IPU. In a divided world, parliaments serve as bridges, build solidarity, and advancing collective action. Sustaining hope depends on institutions that act with integrity, foresight, and accountability. It requires leaders to rise above short-term interests, safeguard rights and dignity, and ensure opportunities for future generations. Transparency, responsible stewardship of the resources, and unwavering respect for the rule of law are the foundations of this trust. As parliamentarians, we must continually ask ourselves, are we legislating for today alone or for the generation yet to come? In Fiji, we are striving to embed long-term thinking into our legislative and policy processes, ensuring that every decision made today is guided not only by the present needs, but by the future consequences. Let us remember that hope is not something we inherit. It is something we create. Peace is not something we assume. It is something we build. And justice is not something we declare. It is something we uphold every day through our actions. The future is watching. Let us act with unity and purpose to ensure that the generations that follow inherit a world defined not by uncertainty, but by opportunity, dignity, and lasting peace. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And now, shall I give the floor to Morocco, followed by Côte d'Ivoire. So I wish the head of delegation to be ready.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to take the floor in my capacity as head of the Moroccan delegation, taking part in this general debate at the 152nd session of the General Assembly of the IPU. I would like to express our deepest gratitude to the Republic of Turkey for its generous hospitality in this long-standing historical city that has long been a melting pot of civilizations and dialogue. The slogan, or rather theme, of this general debate, focusing on peace, hope, and justice, reflects our responsibility as parliamentarians. In the current situation, our responsibility towards upcoming generations who will inherit the sequela of our choices and policies. As a matter of fact, the intrinsic crises that we are witnessing today, especially in the Middle East region, and its ramifications in terms of security and humanitarian challenges that are truly unprecedented, all uncover an intertwined link between insecurity and lack of peace and stability. This calls upon us to take joint action, to devise a joint vision and strategy to peacefully settle disputes through diplomatic means and dialogue. In this regard, we should like to underscore the position of the Kingdom of Morocco condemning with the strongest of terms the aggressions targeting the sovereignty and stability and security of Arab territories, namely GCC countries. We express our full solidarity and unconditional support with Gulf countries in all the measures that they choose to take to defend their sovereignty, independence, territorial integrity, security, and safety for its residents and citizens. In the heart of this vision, the Palestinian cause remains a true test of human conscience in the face of the values of justice and equality. We are seeing the Palestinian people still being victim to violence, destruction, and siege. This has deep and severe consequences for the rights and liberties of individuals. It is therefore imperative, and it is a moral and human responsibility for us to put an end to their plight. We cannot envisage a stable and secure future without finding a just and peaceful solution to this conflict. Ladies and gentlemen, the setback of multilateralism and the increasing and widening gaps in international action have become urgent matters that put to question social and economic balances. The IPU has a growing responsibility to discharge in finding political solutions to establish peace, security, and build trust, because this is a precondition for peace and sustainable development. In this context, the Moroccan Parliament has engaged in an ambitious reform process that aims at restoring trust and confidence in public institutions and parliamentary work by rejuvenating and revitalizing parliamentary action, and also by consecrating the principles of transparency and linking responsibility to accountability. We have laid down 3 pillars. First of all, sustainability, and guaranteeing that future generations do not have to pay the price for our current choices. Second, integration of the capacities that we have available, and also benefiting from the technologies and potentials of the future. And third, promoting the capacity of Morocco to respond to external and regional shocks. The Moroccan Parliament takes part in the International Parliamentary Union, and it constantly focuses on working and contributing to using peaceful solutions to settle disputes and to preserve peace and stability in line with our constant principles of our foreign policy that rest mainly on committing to international law, respecting the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states, and the principle of non-interference. We call upon the IPU to create a wider space for collective action by holding more multilateral and international functions and events, and also participating in the Parliamentary Forum for Interreligious Dialogue and the Dialogue of Civilizations. All of these initiatives provide a space for consultation and to also seek together answers to the challenges of today. This process is a solid one, but it necessitates legislative action to adopt real, tangible laws and texts that contribute to implementing these goals. We have adopted a lot of policies to improve the health and social sectors. We have also focused on keeping up abreast with the challenges in terms of technology, digital transformation, artificial intelligence, in addition to the protection of rights and freedoms and guaranteeing the success and sustainability of public policymaking. Mr. Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, we are today discussing issues pertaining to peace, justice, and the future of our generations. This cannot be done without choosing wisely to adopt policies that reflect positively on the lives of people on a day-to-day basis. Let us harness this moment as a launchpad for our joint commitment so that hope can vanquish despair, so that peace can be established rather than war, and so that truth prevails and justice is served for the best of future generations.
Thank you. And now the floor is to Côte d'Ivoire, followed by Egypt.
Monsieur le Président, Mesdames et Messieurs les Présidentes, distingués participants, je prends la parole en mon nom propre et au nom de Monsieur Jérôme
President, chairs, participants. I'm taking the floor in my own capacity and on behalf also of the Speaker of the National Assembly of Côte d'Ivoire, Jean-Patrick Hachi. Before the establishment of the Senate in 2016, the National Assembly played a key role in resolving the crisis that our country has seen, becoming a pillar of institutional stability and adopting a law on amnesty and reforming the electoral legislation, as well as the establishment of compensation mechanisms for victims. With the creation of the Senate in 2016, the Parliament of the Côte d'Ivoire strengthened this dynamic, assuring greater representation of territorial communities and the Ivorian diaspora. Dear colleagues, distinguished participants, the topic for this general debate cannot simply be seen as a simple invitation to reflect, but rather it is a call to immediate and resolute action. In the Côte d'Ivoire, our recent history has taught us that hope and peace are not something that are decreed from above, and that justice is not something that can be delayed. First of all, we need to cultivate hope. That re-establishes the link between the state and the citizens through transparency, effectiveness, and proximity to public action. And it is in this spirit that the Senate of the Republic of the Côte d'Ivoire began in 2024 a National Diaspora Forum, a strategic instrument to mobilize skills and knowledge and the resources of our compatriots living abroad in order to boost the economic and social development of our country. And as an extension to this, in March 2026, we organized an international symposium on territorial communities, focused on the acceleration of the decentralization process, and then consolidating peace, refusing cliches in order rather to confront with clarity and determination the root causes of our fragility, ongoing inequalities, exclusion based on specific mechanisms, and perceived injustice. Our Parliament is fully committed to its mission of oversight of government action and assessing public policy in order to guarantee that they are constantly in step with the legitimate expectations of the population. At the level of parliamentary democracy, and as part of a multilateral approach, the Association of African Senates was created in 2024 in order to harness together the action of the upper houses of the continent throughout the continent, focusing on the imperative of peace, stability, democratic government and sustainable development. And finally, securing justice for future generations is a rejection of procrastination and a choice for anticipation, responsibility, lucidity. Economically, what that means is investing in education, which is the prime lever for structural transformation. In this way, we can guarantee young generations a future which is more educated, more competitive, and more productive. Environmentally, what this means is the systematic consideration of climate issues in public policy at the local level. From the technological perspective, and in the area of AI, innovation needs to be clearly guided, regulated, and oriented towards the service of human progress. I'd like particularly to focus on three major areas for work, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, we need to establish in each one of our parliaments mechanisms, standing mechanisms, that follow up the recommendations coming from conferences in order to ensure that they are transposed into effective public policy. Secondly, we need to develop interparliamentary cooperation frameworks which focus on the financing of local development, namely through the development of innovative instruments and public-private partnerships. Thirdly, we should draft a parliamentary charter on ethical AI, AI which is ethical, inclusive, and adapted to the day-to-day reality of our societies. Ladies and gentlemen, the Parliament of the Côte d'Ivoire is fully committed to this path and looks forward to advancing by your side in a spirit of solidarity and action. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And now the floor is to Egypt, followed by Kazakhstan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Your Excellency, Madam Tulia Aksan, President of the IPU, Your Excellency, Mr. Martin Chingong, Secretary General of the IPU, Excellencies, Speakers of Parliaments, Excellencies, Members of Parliamentary Delegations, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor for me to stand before you here today to speak to this August Parliamentary Assembly. At the outset, I would like to express our deepest thanks and gratitude to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey for their efforts in hosting the sittings of this assembly. Thank you for your generous hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, this meeting of ours at this pivotal moment of parliamentary action, as this assembly is held under these exceptional circumstances, reflect the need to adopt an international charter that stems from political wisdom and that aims at protecting international peace and stability, but also enhancing hope and justice for the sake of future generations. In this context, the Palestinian cause comes before any other cause. This is the real test of international credibility, especially that Palestine and its people are still targeted with endless attacks. It is still the victim of relentless escalation. It still lacks political and peaceful settlements. We see that the occupation force is still attached to its realpolitik. It is still depriving the Palestinian people of its right to self-determination and its right to have its own independent sovereign state along the June 1967 borders with East Jerusalem as its capital. Ladies and gentlemen, the keys to a solution require meaningful steps to put an end to this conflict according to the two-state solution and the Arab Peace Initiative. In this regard, Egypt, and stemming from its long-standing historic responsibility, condemns with the strongest of terms the Israeli law on the execution of Palestinian prisoners. This law that legalizes the death sentence for Palestinian prisoners is a grave and blatant violation of international law, namely the principle of the right to a fair trial. Egypt rejects any attempts to liquidate the Palestinian cause or to further displace forcibly the Palestinian people. We underline the importance of adopting sustainable mechanisms that allow unfettered access of humanitarian access into the Gaza Strip. We must put an end to the catastrophic humanitarian situation in the Gaza Strip. We must go back to the provisions of the Sharm el-Sheikh Declaration that was the culmination of Egyptian efforts in cooperation with our counterparts in the USA, Turkey, and Qatar. Ladies and gentlemen, dear guests, the Middle East region is at a watershed moment. We see that the future holds very grave consequences that would undermine international peace, security, and stability. Therefore, Egypt firmly believing in our unity, reiterates its long-standing position to stand in solidarity with our brethren in Gulf countries, in Lebanon, in Jordan, and in Iraq. We denounce any and all forms of aggression against the sovereignty or critical infrastructure and water passageways of these countries. Such acts directly prejudice Arab unity, security, and stability, as well as international economy. We welcome the temporary ceasefire that was reached between the various parties to the conflict, and we consider that this is an important step towards containing the military escalation and to put an end to this war. We underline that putting an end to this war requires engaging in a diplomatic and political process that must be meaningful and serious. Continuing diplomatic efforts and mediation action with the relevant parties is a testimony to Egypt's historic role in supporting regional stability, defusing tensions, and de-escalation, in addition to working on preventing endless conflicts that seriously jeopardize the safety of maritime navigation. GCC countries are also keen to preserve peace and the principles of non-aggression in the region. Their stability and peace is a precondition for world peace and stability. Ladies and gentlemen, Egypt will always remain attached to the fact that the goals that we preach and that we aspire to achieve will never be achieved without the respect of the sovereignty of states, international law, and diplomatic pathways through the adoption of responsible and conscious positions that would lead to tangible peace and to build a future that is governed by the language of peace, respect, and mutual understanding. In conclusion, the Egyptian parliament still firmly believes in the importance and value of parliamentary diplomacy. We will harness all of the processes of parliamentary diplomacy in order to preserve peace, stability, and security, and in order to leave behind a world dominated by peace, justice, and equality for all. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you success in our sessions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. And now I should give the floor to Kazakhstan, followed by Qatar.
Dear Chairman, dear distinguished participants of the Assembly, first and foremost, I'd like to express my sincere gratitude to the Grand National Assembly of Turkey and its Speaker, the Honorable Mr. Nurman Kurtulmuş, for the high-level organization of the 152nd Assembly of the Interparliamentary Union, as well as for the great warmth and hospitality extended to us. Dear colleagues, we are living in a complex and volatile world where the authority of international law is weakening. Conflicts are escalating and economic crises are becoming widespread. Natural and man-made disasters, as well as new types of highly dangerous weapons utilizing artificial intelligence, are further exacerbating the situation. Global challenges such as illegal migration, human and arms trafficking, and drug smuggling are also on the rise. In such circumstances, the role of parliamentary diplomacy becomes increasingly vital. It is aimed at strengthening respect, trust, and cooperation between states while ensuring the absolute protection of international law. The theme of today's gathering is nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations. This can be regarded as our collective appeal to parliamentarians worldwide, distinguished colleagues. Kazakhstan has always advocated for strict adherence to the United Nations Charter, open and constructive dialogue alongside the peaceful resolution of conflicts. These are the fundamental principles of our country's foreign policy, consistently implemented by the President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. Our state remains committed to a robust and proactive peace-loving policy. As you know, Astana and Almaty have repeatedly served as platforms for negotiations. Our country contributes to the strengthening of international peace and security as part of United Nations missions. For 3 years now, our national peacekeeping forces have been participating in maintaining the ceasefire and stabilizing the situation in the Golan Heights. We, along with our neighbors in Central Asia, are deeply conscious of the great responsibility toward future generations for peace and security in the region. Today, Central Asia serves as a model of harmonious and multi-vector diplomacy. Border issues between the countries of the region have been fully resolved, and major joint infrastructure projects in hydropower, transport, and logistics are being implemented. The Parliament of Kazakhstan is directly involved in all these efforts. Kazakhstan strives to ensure the timely implementation of all items on the Sustainable Development Agenda. Extensive work has been done to integrate the Sustainable Development Goals into state policy, the economy, and the social sphere. There is a special commission for monitoring the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals operating within our parliament. With the support of the United Nations General Assembly, the UN Regional Center for the Sustainable Development Goals for Central Asia and Afghanistan was established in Almaty. It is intended to become a practical mechanism for mobilizing effort toward achieving the Sustainable Development Goals in our region. Kazakhstan attaches special importance to food and water security, as well as adaptation to climate change. Next week, on April 22nd, 24th, the Regional Ecological Summit will be held in Astana with the support of the United Nations. We believe that this forum will provide practical solutions for water resource management, transitioning to a green economy, and strengthening regional stability. Dear colleagues, today, sustainable development is unthinkable without modern digital technologies. In this regard, the Parliament of Kazakhstan has adopted a digital code and a special law on artificial intelligence in line with global developments. These documents establish the principles of transparency, security, and accountability in the use of AI. During the drafting process, we maintained a careful balance between technological progress and the protection of citizens' rights. The year 2026 has been declared the year of digitalization and artificial intelligence in our country. We are currently implementing a large-scale plan for digital transformation, ranging from the economy to public administration. Esteemed colleagues, in my view, the core essence of our discussion today is the concept of justice. Indeed, today there is a very high demand for justice throughout the world. This primarily concerns the relations between the state and society and between the state and the citizen. In response to this demand, President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev has defined the building of a just and progressive Kazakhstan as the primary goal of his mandate. To achieve this objective, large-scale political reforms have been undertaken in our country. The recent adoption of the new constitution through a national referendum is a testament to the public trust in state institutions and the course of the president's reforms. Throughout the entire text of the constitution, primary priority has been given to the principle of placing human interests above all. The concept of the state for the people, not the people for the state, has been enshrined at the constitutional level. The balance between strong president, influential parliament, and accountable government has been firmly established. Within these reforms, we are transitioning from a bicameral parliament to a unicameral system. The Kazakhstan delegation is delighted to take part in this distinguished gathering held in magnificent Istanbul, the jewel of the Bosphorus, which has long connected countries and civilization. This meeting in such a historic city will undoubtedly help strengthen peace, trust, and mutual understanding. I wish all participants of this important event meaningful discussions, productive cooperation, and great success. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. And now, shall I give the floor to Qatar, please? Okay. And I should leave now. I'll hand it over to Madam Speaker. Okay. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. سعادة الدكتورة توليا رئيسة الاتحاد البرلماني الدولي، سعادة البروفيسور نعمان،
Mr. Norman,
وأعضاء الوفود البرلمانية والمنظمات والهيئات المشاركة في الجمعية العامة. هل كلمتي أن أنقل لكم تحيات أعضاء.
first of all, please allow me to greet you on behalf of the Qatar Shura, who extend their wishes for our success. Thank you also to Turkey, hosting this meeting in difficult circumstances marked by an unprecedented escalation. Ladies and gentlemen, our topic for discussion is peace, justice, but there is a gap between what we see in the world and these principles. War is rampaging, unilateral wars are triggered in full flouting of the principle of state sovereignty. International law seems to be bankrupt. There is no dissuasion from the settling of scores that we are witnessing. Peace and security in the world are under threat. And that is why the international community finds itself in a situation which is unviable. The impact on the economy, the challenges that we face, and the requirement of having joint mechanisms for work means that the international institutions are failing to demonstrate their effectiveness. And despite the complexity of this situation, my country, under the principles that we have abided by for so many years, following the approach of seeking peace by reducing tensions in the region, particularly with Iran, the principles of being good neighbors. Political solutions are the only path to the resolution of conflict. This is an approach which we have abided by, but despite that, we have been subjected to aggression from Iran against civilian infrastructure and facilities and have lost human lives. It's something which has also impacted neighboring brother countries in the Gulf. And it's a clear violation of the principles of good neighborliness and international law's principles. We have to make sure that such acts are never repeated. The danger that these incidents have is the impact on civilian life. And that impact makes these attacks all the more unacceptable because they undermine stability. There is a flagrant difference between the political discourse that we hear and the practice that we see, up to what point are the principles of international law being respected? Israeli aggression continues against Palestinian territories, and in other countries, further violations are being committed, which only undermines stability even further and weakens international responses to this situation. So we find ourselves in a situation where, as parliamentarians, we are called upon to improve the international system, to make those steps that will strengthen the respect of human rights. That is what we have repeatedly called for in many international fora. So on that basis, and in recognition of our responsibility, together with Australia, Turkey, France, Brazil, Zambia, Poland, with the support of GRULAC and the Arab group and the African group of the Union, with Qatar, has submitted a proposal for an emergency item on the preservation of the ceasefire and the establishment of a basis for peace in the Middle East and throughout the world. It's a proposal that reflects just how delicate the current situation is and underscores the importance of arriving at a sustainable solution. The effectiveness of an international mechanism is a must for all of us. So we need to lay the foundations for this. So for all of this, and in light of the strategy for the IPU 27 to 30, we need to recognize those elements that will help us pursue and achieve international peace. May peace be with you all.
Right of reply. Madam Chairman.
I allow it.
Yes, agreed.
Agreed.
At the end of the session, 2 minutes from this.
Right of reply.
At the end of the
I agree. At the end of the session, let us allow Guyana to make their presentation, and then you will have the floor.
No. At the end of the session.
Thank you very much. It's well noted. At the end of the session, at the end of the whole session, you will have the right of reply. Thank you very much, Qatar. My name is Lindy Wetlamini. Excellencies, colleagues, delegates, I am the President of the Senate from the Kingdom of Eswatini. It's my honor to chair this segment of the general debate of the 152nd Assembly of the IPU. I now give the floor to Guyana. Guyana will be followed by Azerbaijan. Guyana, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Madam President.
Not end of the all session. End of this session. I have to talk.
Thank you, sir, but we will allow you to speak at the end of the session.
This session, yes, thank you.
According to the rules, so please bear with us. We respect your submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, distinguished colleagues, I start by reminding us that we have the weight of this moment and the magnitude of our responsibilities to our young people who are watching and who will inherit what we build or will have to deal with the ruins we leave behind. To nurture hope is to act with foresight. To secure peace is to choose dialogue over division. To ensure justice is to uphold the law with impartiality, even when it is inconvenient, even when it is costly. These are not aspirations we can defer to comfortable times. These are duties we must discharge now. And in this regard, Madam President, Guyana has shown some signs of progress. We have 37% women in our parliament, 44% youth. We have to grapple with an aggressive neighbor to our west, but we choose to take that to the International Court of Justice because we believe in multilateralism. We have to deal with justice for the future generation, not only with the environment, but also with the legal framework and bringing up a people who value peace, democracy, and human rights. With this, Madam President, I leave the rest of my time to my colleague to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Guyana. I now give the floor to Azerbaijan. Azerbaijan will be followed by Senegal. Thank you. Azerbaijan, you have the floor.
Madam President, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great honor to address this audience on behalf of the Parliament of the Republic of Azerbaijan at the 152nd Assembly of the IPU in Istanbul. At the outset, I wish to express my sincere appreciation to the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, His Excellency Mr. Numan Kurtulmuş, for his leadership and for the hospitality extended to all participants. Dear colleagues, we meet today at a time of growing uncertainty. Conflicts persist, tensions are rising, crises are deepening, and inequalities continue to widen. These trends risk undermining the foundations of peace and justice. Climate change is immediate and demands urgent action. Against this backdrop, the theme of our Assembly is both timely and highly relevant. It calls on us to act collectively and responsibly. Distinguished delegates, despite existing shortcomings, multilateralism remains indispensable. There is no alternative to a rules-based international order with the United Nations at its core. What is needed is stronger commitment, respect for international law, and consistency. As parliamentarians, we must promote peace, uphold justice, and ensure that future generations are reflected in our decisions. In this context, I would like to especially highlight the role of Interparliamentary Union. Being the oldest and the largest interparliamentary organization, the IPU plays an enormous role in making our voice heard more strongly in global governance. Through tireless devotion to shared ideals, it brings us together for the realization of goals and aspirations that drive our parliaments forward. Ladies and gentlemen, the focus of this Assembly on youth is both timely and essential. Young people are not only beneficiaries of policy, they are active agents of change. It is our responsibility as parliamentarians to ensure that their voices are heard, their potential is realized, and their participation is meaningful. In this regard, the United Nations Declaration on Future Generations, adopted in 2024, is of particular importance as it calls for inclusive and forward-looking policies aimed at sustainable development. In Azerbaijan, youth policy is a strategic priority. To this end, the Parliament of Azerbaijan has established a comprehensive legislative and institutional framework, including the law on youth policy. Numerous state programs have been successfully. Numerous state programs have been successfully implemented to support young people, including initiatives facilitating education abroad, promoting employment, and enhancing youth participation in public administration. Programs such as Yükseliş, meaning ascension, have proven particularly effective in motivating and empowering young individuals. Azerbaijan also actively promotes international youth engagement through platforms such as Youth Forum and Volunteer Forum, fostering solidarity and encouraging contribution to global challenges. In addition, Azerbaijan contributes to the global youth agenda through initiatives like the Youth Organization of the Non-Aligned Movement, as well as the innovative platform, such as the Let the Youth Speak, Let Us Listen panel organized by the Nizami Ganjavi International Center within the Global Baku Forum. Our parliamentarians remain actively engaged in international cooperation, including the IPU Forum of Young Parliamentarians and the Young Parliamentarians Group of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Turkic States. Distinguished participants, we firmly believe that empowering youth means strengthening resilience, innovation, and peace, which are the most important legacy that can lead to future generations. In this context, I would like to underline that the South Caucasus is entering a period of transformation. Progress in dialogue between Azerbaijan and Armenia demonstrates that even long-standing conflicts can be addressed through political will and respect for international law. In this case, parliamentary diplomacy plays a key role in building trust. Dear colleagues, in conclusion, I would like to mention that our efforts must be guided by cooperation, dialogue, and multilateralism. Only through joint action can we build a more peaceful and just world. Let us act today with responsibility for our citizens, for our future generations. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Azerbaijan. It's followed by Senegal. Senegal, you have the floor, and it will be followed by DRC. Senegal, you have the floor. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Madame la Présidente de
Madam President of the IPU, President of the 152nd IPU Assembly, Secretary General, Excellencies, dear colleagues, speakers of Parliament, distinguished representatives, ladies and gentlemen, the world is holding its breath. History seems to be speeding up, accelerating. And what are we doing about it? Are we ready to assume our democratic and historic responsibility? Perhaps never has humanity faced so many crises in such a short space of time. There are cascading crises, interlinked crises, and fragilities, weaknesses are being exacerbated. There is more and more investment in armies. International law is being flouted and human life not respected. It's the law of the jungle. And in fact, the rule of law must win out, because history has shown us that each period in history faces its own challenges. And there are some more silent conflicts which may not be so evident, but we have so many other challenges, such as food insecurity, AI, developing technologies, all of these which are confronting us with new challenges in our democracies and for humanity itself. So what's absolutely vital in the face of these historical developments is that we need to face up to the fact that the world is falling into chaos. Are we in a position to continue to build peace, justice, and dignity for the world? Aren't we endangering the future of our children? Or will we choose to ensure the collective responsibility that we have towards future generations? So it's our duty. It's our duty to step up to the plate and say what we are ready to defend and what we are ready to see disappear if we don't do that, because we need to build a common future together now. So, honourable parliamentarians, in the light of the pandemic just a few years ago, humanity managed to come together and step up to the plate, cooperate and share, and show that it makes a single community together, and we have a common fate. So I call on all of you to show your true colours and reveal our collective intelligence, which just a few years ago enabled us to overcome that challenge. Because unlike the pandemic, current crises aren't accidents. They are choices, the outcome of political decisions, and the cost of our silence. And so we should remember that the future is never guaranteed. We shouldn't take it for granted. It is built through our own courage and determination. The international multilateral system is showing its limits. It is shaking. It is inefficient. It's paralyzed. So it's up to us to take action. It's up to parliamentarians to restore trust in cooperation, to make it fairer, more inclusive, and more faithful for the people who we are supposed to represent, to demonstrate that parliamentary democracy isn't just a silent bystander, but we are far-sighted and determined to face up to the challenges that will help us to build a future together. So please, let us nurture hope, secure peace, and ensure justice for future generations. Remember that hope without taking action is simply a mirage. Peace without justice is just a fragile ceasefire, just a bracket which will close. Justice without memory is simply renouncing the ability to take action. So what should we do? We need to take action to ensure peace. From a young age, peace cannot simply be legislated for. It is transmitted, it is learned, it needs to be taught. And so young people must be involved in this project. They are not just the future, they are the present. And they are demanding more opportunities to participate and to understand and to contribute to society. So it's up to us to give them that opportunity, to listen to them, to integrate them into our work, because a democracy that ignores youth condemns itself to be irrelevant. Therefore, thinking of future generations is our duty, and we mustn't pass on to them our debts, our wars, and our silence. We have a duty to give them a livable and fairer world, and that is a moral, political, and historical duty. And parliaments have a role to play. Parliaments exercise an oversight function of their governments. They are counterbalances to the governmental branch, and they are the voice of those who don't have a voice. And so therefore we must try to include. And that's why Senegal has undertaken thorough reforms. We want to have a parliament that has that oversight function. We want to ensure that it is effective, that it is transparent, and that it is useful. So, ladies and gentlemen, ensuring justice for future generations also means rethinking our global architecture. And with those words, I'd invite to ensure that hope is action, peace is a habit, and justice is a reality for all, so that future generations will remember that we, at least, dared to live for the future. Long live parliamentary democracy, long live peace among peoples, and long live justice for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senegal. I now invite DRC. DRC, you have the floor. It will be followed by Russia. DRC, you have the floor. Thank you.
Madame la Présidente.
Madam President of the IPU, honourable speakers of Parliaments, Your Excellency, IPU Secretary General, honourable parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Parliament of the Democratic Republic of Congo, I'm honoured to take the floor at this 152nd IPU Assembly. I wish to thank the Turkish government, the Turkish people, and the organisers of this assembly for the warm welcome we have received as the DRC delegation. The theme that brings us together today brings us together and reminds us of an essential truth. The decisions that we take today will shape the world that we leave for future generations. So how to nurture hope when fear is ever present, and how to consolidate peace when in the face of war, and how to guarantee justice when impunity seems to have become the rule. Honourable parliamentarians, in an international context marked by the multiplication of conflicts in Africa, Europe and the Middle East, exacerbated inequalities, the climate emergency and technological change, it's vital to strengthen global governance and reiterate our commitment to multilateralism. In that spirit, the international community adopted the United Nations Pact for the Future and the Declaration on Future Generations, which invites decision makers to put intergenerational justice at the very heart of public policy. Honourable parliamentarians, nurturing hope means firmly believing in the possibility of a better future, even in the face of adversity. Hope is neither an illusion nor a simple aspiration. It's a tool that means that we must, or that we have a duty to act and to transform our societies. Consolidating genuine peace shouldn't remain a statement of good intentions. It must mean that we take action, because peace can only be built through dialogue, tolerance, and the respect for democratic principles. It is found in our daily practice and in our collective determination to cooperate. To be fair to future generations also means the responsible and sustainable management of natural resources, a determination to combat impunity, and the implementation of public policy which reconciles social inclusion, sustainable development, and shared prosperity. In the face of those challenges, the position of the Democratic Republic of Congo has remained constant and clear, seeking sustainable peace through the strict respect for the territorial integrity and sovereignty of states, an openness to dialogue and respect for constitutions, respect for international law and regional frameworks to seek sustainable solutions, and the fight against impunity and transnational criminal networks, which are factors of regional insecurity. The President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, His Excellency, Mr. Félix Antoine Tshisekedi Tshilombo, has continued to promote that approach as he seeks a sustainable solution to the crisis in the eastern part of our country, following the aggression committed by Rwanda and its proxies, AFC M23. Flouting territorial integrity, international law, and international and regional instruments for the promotion and protection of human rights, Rwanda continues to be an aggressor. It continues to wage this aggression against the Democratic Republic of Congo, systematically looting our minerals and committing war crimes and crimes against humanity. So far, more than 10 million people have been killed. There are more than 6.7 million internally displaced and hundreds of thousands of refugees around the region. And the United Nations estimates that one woman is raped every 4 minutes. This is one of the most shocking humanitarian emergencies of modern times. And this situation is severely jeopardizing the future of future generations in our sub-region. Honourable parliamentarians, in our collective effort to nurture hope and consolidate peace, there remains a very concerning reality, and that is the persistent difficulty of enforcing international commitments which have been undertaken freely. Numerous UN resolutions, various agreements between countries are not having an impact on the ground because of a lack of effective monitoring mechanisms and a lack of sincere political will. Now, this situation weakens the credibility of our international order. We need to show collective responsibility to ensure the rule of law wins out over the law of the jungle. And it's vital that our assemblies recall multilateralism and ensure that there is a positive dynamic to set in place a new pact for a fairer world. Future generations mustn't suffer from the challenges to peace that we see today. Parliamentary diplomacy shouldn't be seen as simply a support for classic diplomatic action, but it must be a key lever, a tool. Parliaments bring peoples together. They facilitate dialogue. And they help to transform tensions into opportunities for cooperation. Honourable parliamentarians, for the future generations we hope to protect, we have a duty not to fail, and history will judge our ability to transform our speeches into actions. For my country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, nurturing hope, consolidating peace, and ensuring justice for generations are not abstract concepts. They are vital emergencies which we must face up to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, DRC. Thank you. We now have Russia. Russia, you have the floor. After Russia, we'll have Pakistan. Thank you. Russia, you have the floor.
Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I'm delighted and I have the honor and privilege to address you at this prominent gathering. I would like to thank the IPU and its leaders for the wonderful and perfect arrangements for this meeting, and I would like to thank Turkey, the Turkish side, and commend Turkey for its traditional hospitality. This assembly is taking place at a time of worry and anxiety. History has already known horrendous tragedies, including the 2 world wars, but they did not, it seems, serve as a vaccine, as an inoculation against the risk of a 3rd world war. The threat has never been greater than it is today. Why, may I ask you? A truly collective, universal system for ensuring indivisible security has failed to materialize. This is the reason. The international law, the rule of law, and the UN Charter can be 100% effective only when based on the principles of equality and responsibility of all states. But after the Cold War, a group of North Atlantic states decided to assert their hegemony, to assert their economic and military might by imposing its interests and vested interests on the rest of the world, including their dubious values. At the outset, globalization was designed to serve the entire humankind, including international currencies, international financial institutions, interbank settlements, insurance of maritime shipments, and even such a human dimension as prizes in science, literature, music, and cinema. They were all designed to serve, to bring us closer together, but in reality, they are serving only one side of the equation, only one pole. And this is not a coincidence. This is one of the main topics at this assembly. The same processes are unfolding in geopolitics. The principle of indivisible security has been virtually cancelled by the Western unending expansion. The West has been forming blocs that operate outside of universal international law. And it is these structures and their member states that attacked Yugoslavia, Iraq, and Libya. When NATO invited Georgia and Ukraine to join it in 2008, it was immediately followed by an attack against international peacekeepers in South Ossetia. 5 years later, with the support of the same countries, there was a government coup that took place, an armed government coup that took place in Ukraine. President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, back in 2007, came forward with a proposal on devising a global security architecture that would serve as a foundation for a multipolar world order. In 2008, in 2021, Russia put forward specific initiatives, but both proposals were unfortunately rejected. So many conflicts in Europe, in Afghanistan, and in the Middle East, including the ongoing escalation in and around Iran, all these conflicts could have been prevented if, instead of the right makes might principle, instead of this rules-based order and who knows what rules and where they come from, if instead the UN Charter and indivisible security prevailed, along with international law for all countries and all nations. After all, the consequences of aggression are a threat for all. The war in the Middle East made the situation worse, with hunger and poverty across the planet. It resulted in a large-scale energy crisis. There is this growing migration disaster and an environmental disaster. The entire world is witnessing as innocent people, women, the elderly, and children are dying, and the world is incapable of stopping these crimes. The morality and the rights were infringed upon by those who act without a mandate from the UN Security Council. The death of innocent children in a school in Minab, Iran, was a real tragedy. There can be no justification for such strikes. And we hope that the talks between Iran and the United States succeed to stop this war so that we stop people from dying. Colleagues, in 2024, President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, came forward with an initiative to create a Eurasian security architecture. It would not be designed to counter anyone or targeted against anyone, and it is not designed to replace the international connections we have and ties we have today. It is open and inclusive for everyone in Asia, in Europe, and the Eurasian Charter for Diversity and Multipolarity in the 21st century could serve as its foundation. And today, Russia's concept of ensuring collective security in the Persian Gulf is becoming increasingly relevant. Colleagues, the Interparliamentary Union is a platform where we try to discuss openly all the important topics. Unfortunately, we do not always succeed. The Gaza tragedy, the IPU has not paid enough attention to it over the past 2 years, And today, if you speak about the origins, the root causes of this conflict, this means that in the future, we're not protected against these shocks happening once again and resonating across entire regions. But what can we do? I'm confident that parliamentary diplomacy has endless potential. Today, the mission for the IPU is to promote peace and democracy and cooperation. This mission remains relevant like never before. By the way, presidents of the IPU received, over the course of our history, 8 Nobel Peace Awards. So let's work together so that the planet once again recovers hope and comes back to peace and justice. But this is only possible in a multipolar world with greater justice for all. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you fruitful discussions.
Thank you very much, Russia. Thank you. We now invite Pakistan. Pakistan, you have the floor. Pakistan will be followed by Gabon. Thank you. Pakistan.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Honorable President, Honorable Secretary General, who's not here as yet, distinguished speakers, parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It's an honor for me to address the 152nd Assembly of the Inter-Parliamentary Union in Istanbul. I thank the Grand National Assembly of Turkey for its warm hospitality. The theme for our today's debate, nurturing hope, securing peace, ensuring justice for future generations, is a test of our role as parliamentarians. The global order, established 80 years ago by humanity collectively, will and wisdom at a point of inflection. The international community faces a deeply troubling landscape of unresolved conflicts, festering disputes, and new and escalating crises. Around the world, unresolved disputes have morphed into prolonged conflicts. The flames of war rage in several regions across the globe. The crises have inflicted untold human suffering, displaced millions, and undermined our collective faith in the international system's ability to deliver justice and peace. Pakistan remains a firm believer in the promise and power of parliamentary diplomacy as an instrument of hope for trust building and cooperation essential to conflict prevention and resolution. Excellencies, respect and adherence to the fundamental principle of UN Charter, the non-use of threat, of use of force, self-right of determination, respect for sovereign equality and territorial integrity of states, non-interference in their internal affairs, pacific settlement of disputes remain critical for the maintenance of international peace and security. We, the parliamentarians, must collectively acknowledge that durable peace cannot be forged through power projection, but through dialogue, mutual respect, and inclusive diplomacy. Despite the Charter of the UN's providing comprehensive tools for the specific settlement of disputes, including negotiation, inquiry, mediation, conciliation, arbitration, and judicial settlement, these mechanisms remain underutilized or selectively applied. Ladies and gentlemen, India continued aggression and denial of the right of self-determination to the Kashmiris in the Indian illegal occupied Jammu and Kashmir remain the primary source of instability in South Asia. Jammu and Kashmir remain an international recognized dispute territory. The final disposition of such is to be made in accordance with the relevant UNSC resolutions and as per the aspirations of the people of Kashmir. India must also reverse its unilateral and illegal measures it has taken since 5th May 2019 in the Indian-occupied held Jammu and Kashmir. However, instead of peaceful resolution of outstanding disputes, India has adopted a threatening rhetoric, and aggressive posturing by India is also a matter of concern. India illegally moved to hold the Indus Water Treaty in abeyance is highly irresponsible and constitute a blatant violation of international law, the treaty itself and the establishment norms of interstate relations. This weaponization of water has become an ever-present trigger for conflict in South Asia with far-reaching implications. Pakistan is fully entitled to take all appropriate steps to safeguard its due share of water as guaranteed under the treaty. Ladies and gentlemen, the Palestinian people unfortunately continue to endure illegal occupation, dispossession, systemic violence, and the denial of their inalienable right, including the inalienable right of self-determination. Over the past 2 years, their suffering has reached unprecedented levels, particularly in Gaza, where more than 71,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, have been martyred. Violence has also intensified sharply in the West Bank, including East Jerusalem. Despite the grim realities, the international community has pursued a path towards hope and peace. The United Nations High-Level Conference in July and the UN General Assembly endorsement of the New York Declaration last year established a multilateral pathway to a Palestinian statehood. Efforts by the United States, led by President Donald Trump and supported by Arab Islamic countries, including Pakistan, advanced the Gaza peace plan. Pakistan believes that a time-bound and irreversible political process anchored in relevant UN resolution must lead to the establishment of a sovereign, independent, and contiguous state of Palestine on the basis of pre-1967 border with Al-Quds al-Sharif as its capital. That this is the guarantee for durable peace and stability in the region. Ladies and gentlemen, Pakistan seeks an immediate end to the ongoing conflict in the region and has been carrying out intensive diplomatic efforts to facilitate dialogue and diplomacy. I would like to reiterate Pakistan's gratitude to the Islamic Republic of Iran, the United States of America for responding to the efforts made by the Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mohammad Shehbaz Sharif, and the Deputy Prime Minister of Pakistan, Mohammad Ishaq Dar, and the Chief of Defense Forces of Pakistan, Field Marshal Sayyid Asim Munir, for an immediate ceasefire in the region, as well as for engaging in Islamabad talks on the 11th and 12th of April this year. Islamabad talks represent a significant and historic breakthrough. With the active mediation of Pakistan, the two sides had several rounds of constructive negotiations. The overall approach by the two sides remained very constructive and promising. We hope that the two sides continue with the positive spirit to achieve durable peace and prosperity for the entire region and beyond. It is imperative that parties continue to uphold their commitment to ceasefire. Pakistan has been and will continue to play its role to facilitate engagement and dialogue between the parties. Excellencies, the worsening situation in Afghanistan continues to pose a serious threat to regional peace and security. Today, Afghanistan is a sanctuary for terrorist groups and proxies, a reality acknowledged by global assessments. This has destabilized the region with dire consequences and security challenges for its immediate neighbors, particularly Pakistan. As immediate neighbors bound by geography and deep-rooted ties, cultural linkages, and fraternal bonds, no country desires peace and stability. No country desires peace and stability in Afghanistan more than Pakistan does. This is why Pakistan has always prioritized dialogue with Afghanistan. Terrorism emanating from Afghanistan poses a grave threat not only its immediate neighbors, but also to the border region and beyond. For the protection of its citizens, territories, and sovereignty, Pakistan will
Please
take all
conclude, Pakistan. We're moving on to. Please
defensive
conclude.
measures.
Thank you.
I'll just take a minute. I have to talk about climate also, because that's killing everyone.
Please conclude. You are over by 2 minutes. Thank you.
Less than a minute. Climate change is among the most pressing global challenges, with forecasts confirming unprecedented negative impacts worldwide. For Pakistan, this issue of climate change is an existential issue, as it is ranked among the top most affected countries. We have therefore accordingly prioritized domestic climate actions that include the launch of Recharge Pakistan project to implement ecosystem-based flood management, the first ever national carbon markets policy, and the introduction of climate-sensitive government budgeting. These are some of the actions Pakistan enabling the country to swiftly transition to green economy and build national resilience against negative effects of climate change. Distinguished guests, let us reaffirm our collective resolve into concrete collective actions that nurture hope, secure peace, and ensure justice for generations yet born. The Parliament of Pakistan remains committed to working with all members to strengthen cooperation and advance a world where peace is sustained by justice and guided by hope for our people and for the generations to come. I thank you all, and sorry for the extra 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Pakistan. I now have Gabon. Gabon, you have the floor. Gabon will be followed by Thailand. Thank you, Gabon. You have the floor. Thank you. Please, may I humbly request that you respect time, sir. Thank you.
Madame la Présidente.
President of the IPU, Presidents of the Assembly, Secretary General of the IPU, parliamentary colleagues, guests, ladies and gentlemen, what a pleasure it is for me to be here with you in Istanbul. Such a historical setting for our meeting, a crossroads of civilizations. And as a parliamentarian by career, it's a real honor for me to take part in this 152nd Assembly of the IPU. It is my first. And from this tribunal, allow me to feel that I myself am now part of IPU history. Allow me to extend to you the warm greetings of the Parliament of Gabon, and also words of gratitude from the people of Gabon and the authorities in the country for the invaluable support which you provided during the transition period that we have passed through. And on behalf of my colleagues, allow me to thank the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, which has provided us with such hospitality since our arrival. We are discussing an issue based on three fundamental pillars: hope, peace, and justice for future generations. For Gabon, these are not mere words. They are a reality that constitute the heart of our public policy, that constitute the heart of our commitment as parliamentarians. The culture that we pursue is that of undertaking reform that we have seen since the transition. A year ago, since the elections that brought the President Brice Clotaire Nguema to the head of state, we have set about adapting our national context to the legitimate expectations of our citizens. And that implies working on infrastructure, making sure that the Gabonese have the infrastructure and equipment necessary to diversify our economy, to locally transform our commodities, to ensure that young people are employable, and to create conditions for happier communities. Achieving these reforms needs a social economic, political environment which is harmonious and stable. Recently, we transitioned through some major stages in our history. And from that, we understand that peace is not imposed, but is built meticulously on the basis of ongoing commitment. The cost of the liberation that took place in August 23 in Gabon was a process that took place in a process of humility and commitment. And the Gabonese had the opportunity to express themselves freely in a peaceful environment. And as you can see, peace in Gabon is one of our fundamental values. It has been a value passed down to us from our predecessors and something that we will cherish under all circumstances. The third pillar of our discussion is that relating to justice, which guarantees equity for young people today and generations of the future. Young people face issues such as unemployment, which impacts their living of an individual life. And here our work is central. We need to legislate and oversee the actions of the legislative. We need to ensure that our laws leave no one behind and secure a better future for our young people and our country. This is work that I and my colleagues are committed to. The fifth Gabonese Republic will be different from the previous one. Our parliament is facing the future, seeking a bright future for our young people. And before closing, allow me to express gratitude to those people who have worked tirelessly to benefit our parliaments. Martin Chungong has worked extremely hard. My dear friend Martin, you're reaching the end of your time in this role, but I hope very much that you will remain close to us and to the IPU and remain at the heart of the issues that the IPU is dedicated to. You have left your mark on strengthening democracy at the global level and strengthening women's rights. More than your predecessors, you have shown how much parliamentary democracy can contribute to the transformation of our society, for peace, for international security, at a time where the world finds itself in some degree of turmoil. So my gratitude, the gratitude of Gabon, goes to you for all of your work. Thank you.
Gabon. I now invite Thailand.
Madam President of the Interparliamentary Union, President, Speakers of Member Parliaments, Secretary General, distinguished fellow parliamentarians. On behalf of the National Assembly of the Kingdom of Thailand, I am deeply honored to visit Istanbul, the city that bridges continents and cultures. Much like the theme of today's debate, nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice and for future generations. This is a vital mission that we must concert to deliver a sustainable world to future generations. Within the global context and challenges, we are living in an era where the world faces unprecedented vulnerability, including geopolitical conflicts, the climate crisis, and challenges from artificial intelligence. Parliament, as an institution that serves the people, must act as a pillar of hope and fairness by relying on cooperation based on multilateralism and respect for human dignity. Furthermore, another significant challenge we face as people's representatives is building confidence and trust in legislative institutions and democracy. Thailand is currently facing a demographic crisis with the second lowest birth rate in the world. The Thai Parliament is therefore committed to legal reform to create inclusive justice. We have pushed forward a new draft bill for the quality of life of persons with disability and developed a targeted universalism system to ensure no one is left behind. Additionally, we focus on eradicating intergenerational poverty by increasing educational opportunities and skills for the youth. Meanwhile, we are proud that the proportion of women in parliament has continuously increased, which is at the heart of the comprehensive and fair decision-making. Furthermore, we promote the integration of the Sustainable Development Goals into the legislative process in accordance with the 13th National Economic and Social Development Plan, as well as the guidelines for the post-2030 agenda. The Thai Parliament also emphasized pushing forward the climate change bill to establish binding mechanisms for reducing greenhouse gas emission, including assessing the impact of laws on future generations, which aims to reduce national greenhouse gas emissions, promote adaptation to build climate resilience, and establish mechanisms to support an efficient transition to ensure that environmental justice serves as a guarantee for the future. In an era where artificial intelligence is rapidly reshaping democracy, the Thai Parliament recognized that AI represents both opportunity and risk. Thailand is ready to support relevant Inter-Parliamentary Union's resolution to jointly define an AI governance framework that protects civil rights and strengthens democracy. The Thai Parliament has a central data center and applies AI to provide services safely. Ladies and gentlemen, Parliament is an institution of hope and intergenerational responsibility. Our duty is not merely to enact laws for today, but to deliver a social, legal, and environmental legacy to the next generation, while building even stronger confidence in legislative institutions based on this principle. Thailand wishes to encourage member parliaments to stand firm in the principles of multilateralism and international law to create peaceful and just world for all generations in accordance with Sustainable Development Goals 16. Promote parliamentary diplomacy for peace, human rights, and climate justice, which are the heart of a sustainable world. Esteemed parliamentarians, hope is not merely a social sentiment. It is a political duty that we must create and protect together, with the conviction that this Inter-Parliamentary Union will serve as a platform that connects the hopes of people worldwide. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Thailand. We now have Vietnam. Vietnam, you have the floor. Vietnam will be followed by Bahrain. Thank you.
Madam President, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great pleasure and honor to represent the National Assembly of Vietnam at the 152nd IPU General Assembly. The theme of nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations resonates with us greatly, as it is both time-relevant a message and an urgent line of action for all of us. The world is witnessing complex, growing instabilities due to geopolitical competitions, an undermining of international law, the use of force, the destruction of vital infrastructure causing pain and loss to millions, wars, disputes, trade protectionism, polarization, and fragmentation is becoming clearer and clearer. Non-traditional security challenges are exerting multi-dimensional impact on mankind. Disruptive technologies, including AI, are bringing both opportunities and a need for more advanced administration. Faced with this reality, we, however, still have ground to trust and hope for the future. Globally, commitment to multilateralism and international cooperation remains strong. Common agenda, such as the Pact for the Future or the 2030 Agenda, remain the bedrock of collective global action. The adoption of the recent 6th World Conference of Speakers of Parliament's high-level declaration showed that our IPU members are resolutely committed to cooperation for peace, justice, and prosperity for all. Regionally and interregionally, especially in the Asia-Pacific, economic integration efforts and multilateral cooperation initiatives are forging well ahead. The ASEAN, the AIPA, continue to make important contributions to peace, cooperation, and development in the region. In Vietnam, given the achievements of 40 years of Doi Moi, it is entering a new era of confidence and self-reliance with the goal of becoming a developing country with modern industry and upper middle income by 2030 and a developed high-income country by 2045. We are implementing a new growth model driven primarily by science, technology, innovation, and digitalization while ensuring sustainable social development and environment protection so that the people can better enjoy the fruit of development. Our foreign policy line is one of independence, self-reliance, self-empowerment, peace, friendship, cooperation, and development. As such, Vietnam is contributing responsibly and will continue to do so alongside the international community to advancing multilateralism and addressing global issues. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, to overcome these adversities together and make full use of opportunities, I believe that this is the right time for the IPU and its members to make common effort for international cooperation and solidarity, strengthen the spirit of the law, uphold national initiatives for peace, cooperation, and development. I would like to, therefore, make the following proposals. First, we should advance parliamentary diplomacy, strengthen dialogue and trust building and friendship among nations in the world, prevent and address the root causes of conflict, respect the fundamental principles of international law and the UN Charter. In this spirit, along with the IPU members, we call upon all parties involved to fully observe the ceasefire and continue to pursue peace talks to find a long-term solutions to ongoing conflicts. Second, we should make full use of the pioneering role of the parliaments to integrate into national law commitments as to climate resilience, non-proliferation, and observe supreme oversight of international commitments. We are fully confident that even if mankind is faced with great challenges, however great they may be, it is solidarity, cooperation, and collaboration that will take us over that will bring us over all of these challenges to bring a brighter future to all future generations. Thank you very much.
Very much, Vietnam. We now have Bahrain. Bahrain, you have the floor. You'll be followed by Botswana. Thank you, Bahrain.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Your Excellency, Madam Tulia Aksan, President of the IPU, Your Excellency, Professor Noman Kurtulmuş, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Your Excellency, Mr. Martin Chungong, Secretary General of the IPU, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, speakers and members of Parliament, may the peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you all. At the outset, we would like to thank the Grand National Assembly of Turkey for its excellent organization and preparation of our sittings in effective and fruitful partnership with the Secretariat of the IPU. I would like to say that the selection of our theme for this year's general debate was very successful, as it reflects the ambitions and wishes of all peace-loving peoples, the peoples that seek to build a better future for future generations. This theme falls deep within the core of our national strategies, namely the strategic vision of Bahrain under the leadership of His Majesty King Hamad bin Isa Al Khalifa. May God preserve and protect him. With the close cooperation and supervision of His Excellency Crown Prince and Head of Government of Bahrain, my country allocates a great deal of importance to legislative action in its programs and its continuous activities, namely through parliamentary diplomacy. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, as we hold this meeting, the world in its entirety witnessed the attacks against our countries, against the Kingdom of Bahrain, GCC states, and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. These attacks were waged by Iran in flagrant violation of international law, international humanitarian law, the international maritime law. It is a blatant violation as well of our sovereignty. It is a direct attack that prejudices the safety and security of our citizens. This is why we have submitted a draft resolution to the Security Council of the United Nations in March of 2026, number 2817. It has garnered unprecedented international support from numerous countries in the United Nations. This unlimited support expresses the collective desire of the international community to devise strategies to protect the safety and security of states and also preserve international peace and security. The said resolution has strongly condemned the ferocious attacks waged by Iran against the GCC states, in addition to Jordan. The Human Rights Council in Geneva, in its resolution
A speech of Bahrain.
A right of reply.
A lot of countries have condemned with the strongest of terms these unjustified and unprovoked attacks that have targeted our people and their consequences on human rights. Despite the adoption of the two aforementioned international resolutions, Iran perpetrated even more attacks against our people living in safety and security, using ballistic missiles, using drones. It has targeted, in particular, civilian infrastructure and civilian facilities, including airports, ports, hotels, energy infrastructure, in addition to food and health facilities. It has targeted residential areas, diplomatic quarters, and even consular buildings. This has yielded a great deal of losses in life and in materials as well. This has also led to the closure of the Hormuz Strait, and this has undermined the security of international maritime navigation. This has restricted international trade and commerce and supplies. This goes in blatant violation of international law on the security of the seas of 1980. Madam President, ladies and gentlemen, the current times, with all of its challenges, difficulties, and turmoil, calls upon the International Parliamentary Union to work in full responsibility to urge international organizations and institutions, first and foremost of which the United Nations, to condemn these blatant violations of international law perpetrated by Iran and to call upon Iran to abide by international law and international human rights law as stipulated in the resolutions issued by the Security Council and the Human Rights Council. The Kingdom of Bahrain and the United Arab Emirates have submitted a request for an emergency item in order to call upon Iran to respect Resolution 2817 and also Decision number 38 that strongly condemn the attacks by Iran against GCC states and Jordan. We look forward to the support of IPU members to have this emergency item proposal approved and adopted. The international community has a critical and pivotal role to play in achieving sustainable development goals and to guarantee peace, prosperity, coexistence, and tolerance for all peoples of the world. It must achieve sustainable peace and stability in all international causes. Most importantly, the Palestinian cause. We must respect the human rights of the Palestinian people. In light of the ongoing Iranian escalation and in light of these treacherous attacks, we have submitted a request to include an emergency item proposal to call upon Iran to respect Resolution 2817 and Decision number 38 to condemn the Iranian attacks targeting GCC states and the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan. We are fully confident that if such a resolution is adopted by the IPU at this critical and historical moment, then the IPU would have honored its responsibilities in this arena, especially that our theme for this year's debate is strengthening and protecting hope, preserving peace and stability and security and justice for upcoming generations. Thank you, and may the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you.
Thank you very much. To Bahrain, we have noted the right to reply by Iran, and again it will be done at the end of our session.
Madam Chairperson, the crime is done by Bahrain. Please write down my right of reply to the Bahrain is nonsense.
I note, esteemed delegation, but please note that you will speak at the end of the debates, not right now. I also note Rwanda also made a call for a right to reply. Again, we've noted that. That will be at the end of the session. It's well noted what you've mentioned. Thank you. Thank you to Bahrain. I now invite Botswana. Botswana, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam President and the Secretary General. Dear colleagues, speakers, and parliamentarians, Botswana, like more than 100 countries represented here, is greatly honored and privileged to be part of this auspicious 152nd Assembly of the world's largest and oldest organization of national parliaments. We are delighted to be here in Istanbul, a city that bestrides Europe and Asia athwart the Bosphorus Strait a city constituting Turkey's economic, cultural, and historical center, and indeed a cradle of civilization. It is a privilege to join this 152nd IPU Assembly here in Istanbul under the theme touching on hope, peace, and justice for future generations. The challenges before us are immense: widening inequalities, climate emergencies, disruptive technologies, and declining trust in institutions. Yet, as parliamentarians, we are entrusted with the responsibility to transform these challenges into opportunities for renewal. As Kofi Annan wisely stated, the future of peace and prosperity that we seek for all the world's peoples needs a foundation of tolerance, security, equality, and justice. This timely reminder serves as our guiding principle in these deliberations. The symbolism of our gathering here is striking. Not far from this hall lies the site of a devastating conflagration, a reminder of the fragility of peace and the urgency of our mission. Colleagues, let us underscore the importance of peace in development. There is no sustainable development without peace. Peace is the foundation that allows for development to happen. And conflict destroys economies. As the UN notes, peace is absolutely essential to development because conflict guts economies and breaks social bonds. Botswana's long-standing peace has been central to its political stability, economic growth, and reputation as one of Africa's most successful democracies, despite being surrounded by conflict-prone neighbors in the past. Botswana has had consistent, uninterrupted, and peaceful elections since 1965. In the latest development, in 2024, we've experienced our first transfer of power from a party that has ruled for 58 years, remarkably without ethnic or political violence, no bloodshed. It was a seamless, swift, and peaceful transition of power. Our commitment to democracy, the rule of law, and prudent economic management has made peace both a foundation and a driver of our national development. Botswana as such bears testament to the long-held view of proponents of the Kantian peace theory, which posits that an enduring democratic dispensation results in peace. In Botswana's case, this peace has been underpinned by values of social harmony, peaceful coexistence, tolerance, mutual understanding, accountability, democracy, development, unity, self-reliance, and boto, or humaneness. As you may all recall, Sustainable Development Goal 16 links peace to justice, strong institutions, reduced corruption, and the rule of law. These are the cornerstone that Botswana aligns with. Conflicts drain budgets, the absence of peace leads to crisis budgeting, and Botswana's example illustrates how sustained peace can foster economic development and prosperity. Dear colleagues, Botswana's unwavering dedication to regional and international peacekeeping is demonstrated through our consistent participation in various multilateral operations over the past 80 years. From Operation Restore Hope in Somalia, 1992 to 1993, under the UN Resolution 794, to peacekeeping roles in Rwanda, Somalia, and Mozambique, with UNOMODS 1993 to 1994, our defense force has helped a pivotal role in delivering humanitarian aid and monitoring ceasefires. In 1998, our collaboration with South African National Defense Force during SADC's Operation Boleas in Lesotho further highlighted our commitment, and our efforts continued in Darfur in 2006 under the African Union and in missions in Ethiopia and Eritrea, reinforcing our dedication to fostering peace and stability across the continent. More recently, Botswana's participation in SADC peacekeeping mission in Mozambique under SAMIM reaffirms our enduring resolve to promote regional peace and security. This year's theme, nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations, serves not as an aspiration, but as a call to action. We must integrate foresight into national plans, ensuring peace and justice are not deferred dreams, but lived realities. Dear colleagues, in September, Botswana will celebrate its 60th independence as one of the longest uninterrupted democracies in Africa. This year also signifies the second year of the new administration, under which the new government has placed human rights at the epicenter of our nation's development. Human rights are the foundation of our foreign policy engagements. Botswana engages with other nations with integrity and conviction, and our government supports causes promoting peace, stability, and sustainable development at home and abroad through a human rights-based approach. And by opening channels of dialogue, we strengthen accountability and ensure that governance reflects the voices of all, including those in remote communities. Dear colleagues, the Parliament of Botswana remains steadfastly committed to multilateralism and is a proud participant on the global stage, advancing parliamentary diplomacy to foster a just, peaceful, and prosperous world for all. We recognize that multilateralism today faces numerous challenges, with contending ideas on peace and security and the legitimacy of multilateral institutions being questioned by some. Despite these imperfections, we hold firm in our belief that the United Nations system, though not without flaws, remains a vital framework for global cooperation. We stand resolute in our commitment to the UN system, advocating for reforms where necessary to enhance its effectiveness and legitimacy. As legislators, we must unwaveringly advocate for the peaceful resolution of conflicts, ensure that resources are allocated towards human safety and security, and promote the full enjoyment of fundamental human rights and freedoms of our people. Through these efforts, we aim to secure peace, ensure human safety, and promote the full enjoyment of fundamental human rights for both present and future generations. In conclusion, dear colleagues, the future will not wait for us. As the African proverb teaches us, the child who is not embraced by the village will burn it down to feel its warmth. Let us embrace future generations with foresight, justice, and peace. Let us ensure that technology, diplomacy, and lawmaking are harnessed not as instruments of divisions, but as bridges of hope. The digital future, the climate future, and the democratic future, these must be consciously shaped by us for the benefit of all humanity. May this assembly be a turning point where parliamentary diplomacy, dialogue, and interparliamentary cooperation deepen, and our collective will be channeled towards a future defined not by conflict, but by peace and inclusion and justice and shared prosperity. I thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Merci. Muito obrigado. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Botswana. I now have Nigeria. Nigeria, you have the floor. Thank you.
Madam President, my colleagues, speakers of various countries of the world, and heads of parliaments, I bring you warm greetings from the Parliament and the resilient people of Nigeria, a nation whose history, diversity, and democratic journey have taught us that peace is not inherited. It is built, defended, and sustained. I stand before you today not merely as a representative of my country, but as a voice shaped by experience, a voice from a nation that has endured the trials of civil war, grappled with the burdens of conflict and insecurity, and yet stands resolute in its commitment to unity, to peace, and to the enduring promise of democracy. Distinguished colleagues, we meet at a point and at a moment when the foundations of global peace are under severe strain. Across continents, terrorism and violent conflicts are no longer distant threats. They are taking roots across different borders and testing the resilience of states and institutions alike. Therefore, nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations is an apt theme for this 152nd IPU Assembly. This is not a moment for hesitation. It is a moment for resolve. It's a moment for parliaments to rise to their highest callings, to extend a lifeline to millions who are in many parts of the world, drifting in a sea of despair and uncertainty, and to restore to them the hope that peace, justice, and order can still prevail. From Gaza to Iran, from Lebanon to parts of Africa, and from Russia through Ukraine, one truth has become unmistakably clear. No nation is immune, and no continent stands in isolation. It is time, therefore, to turn from destruction to construction, to fashion our spears into pruning hooks, and to redirect the instruments of war towards the work of development. Harnessing our resources, our ingenuity, and our shared humanity to uplift the conditions of the world. Yet, beyond the violence lies a deeper concern, a troubling shift in our global moral equilibrium, where increasingly might appears to define the rights of people, and where the sovereignty of nations, especially the weaker ones, are often compromised. This is not merely a crisis of security. It is a crisis of leadership and a test for the global institutions and for parliaments all over the world. Nigeria speaks on this not from abstraction, but from experience. In war, we all too often count the dead, but we do not count the traumatized. We speak of numbers, yet behind every number lies a shattered cycle of life, a life of a widowed woman, the children orphaned, families broken, and communities diminished. In claiming to eliminate a man, we forget that we have undone an entire human ecosystem that man sustained. Nigeria is not concerned with who is right or who is wrong. Nigeria is concerned with the chains that have been broken of our brotherhood, of mankind, and that we are losing our humanity on a daily basis. Though we are still battling insecurity in our own dear country, we hold fast to the truth proclaimed by Martin Luther King that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. And because we are so bound, whatever diminishes one diminishes all, and whatever uplifts one ennobles all. The global agencies are increasingly constrained, such as the United Nations, and the world is drifting towards disorder. The Interparliamentary Union must step into the void now created and become the voice of the voiceless and the hope of the hopeless. IPU must help to change the narrative. IPU must give renewed strength and purpose to even the United Nations. All nations must be treated equally, and no nation must be mistaken for the injustice. And no matter how weakened, we must never be met a warrant for injustice. Let this moment mark a turning point, a moment when the Interparliamentary Union rose to its highest calling, a moment when nations act not in isolation, but in solidarity, a moment when we renew our covenant, not just with our people, but with posterity. Nigeria stands with the IPU. Nigeria stands with our fellow parliamentarians. Let us move forward together to build a world where hope endures, where peace prevails, and justice shines, steady and unwavering like the northern star. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you very much to Nigeria. We welcome the Secretary General back in the Assembly. I will now invite Oman. Oman, you have the floor. Oman, you will be followed by Georgia. Oman, you have the floor. Thank you.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول.
In the name of God, the merciful and compassionate. Distinguished President of the IPU, heads of delegation, Secretary General of the IPU, brothers and sisters, may the peace of God be with you all. It is for me and for my accompanying delegation a pleasure to enjoy the excellent preparation of Turkey of the 152nd IPU Assembly, which sets a landmark towards achieving our objectives, and the outcomes will supplement the efforts that we have made in previous assemblies. So it is an honor for me to address a very important issue, the role of parliamentary diplomacy in strengthening democracy and responding to the very rapid changes that we are seeing. The IPU has become a very effective strategic instrument to pursue development through legislative changes driven by parliaments as they work together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. Parliaments play a key role in establishing legislative frameworks in response to technological challenges, as those change the way we work and live in society. All of that happens as a result of parliamentary discussions, dialogue, and as we pursue our objectives, we need to ensure that peace, stability, and development are at the heart of our concerns. The global situation today, as we meet, as we hold these discussions, is extremely fragile. It could be seen as a turning point in the world, particularly in the Middle East, which is a region that moves from one crisis to the next, jeopardizing its security and stability. Our countries are not responsible for this situation. American and Israeli aggression against Iran and against the provisions of international law is the cause, alongside attacks against Oman, Iraq, and Jordan. We fully understand that this impairs peace and security in the region, and its repercussions are not limited to parties in conflict. Rather, they affect everybody. As we have seen, the international community is facing a crucial time where there are opportunities to build peace and justice in the world. The right of countries to defend themselves is a principle under international law. At the same time, diplomacy is a way of addressing the root cause of crises. Peace and security is our objective, and the Israeli aggression against the Republic of Lebanon, taking as its targets civil infrastructure and civilians, reflects a mentality that believes solely in destruction, a criminal mindset that constitutes a threat to global peace and security. When we, ladies and gentlemen, talk about the most recent events in the Middle East, we cannot forget Israeli violations in the occupied Palestine territories, which are a stain on the conscience of the world. And it's highly regrettable that one of the members of this union is a member, a participant in these acts. Adopting a law condemning to death Palestinian prisoners in flagrant violation of international humanitarian law. And from this stage, we call on the international community represented here in this hall that it meet the demands of the moment, recognizing its legal and moral responsibility to put an end to the bloodshed and strengthen efforts to preserve peace and security in this region and in the world. Distinguished delegates, the application of the commitments arising from the UN Charter are not solely legislative in nature. They require sincere political will, alongside the participation of all countries and civil society institutions. We need to build trust in the international system on the basis of accountability and transparency so we can achieve global peace. The commitments of this charter prompt us to step up efforts to preserve peace, to protect human dignity. We need to be effective partners in preserving intergenerational justice. Distinguished delegates, the IPU was based on the principles of peace and security in the world, and achieving these aspirations, the aspirations of people to live together in security and respect of human rights. What we are experiencing now, the changes and the challenges that we face, constitute a threat to that global peace and security. So our shared responsibility is to work together to enhance the activities towards a world where rights and human dignity are preserved. And in closing, allow me to thank you from my heart. May God guide our steps towards a fruitful outcome. May the peace of God be with you all.
Please allow me to welcome back the President of the IPU, Dr. Tulia Oxen, back into the Assembly. The last speaker that we have this afternoon is Georgia. Oh, sorry, just for this session is Georgia. Georgia, you have the floor. Thank you.
Thank you. Distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, in an era of uncertainty, the voice of national parliament must not fade, it must rise. We are not observers of history, we are its authors. It is in our chambers that the sovereign will of nations take shape. It is through us that the people speak clearly, legitimately, and decisively. And it is in our duty to ensure that this voice is never diluted, never overshadowed, and never replaced. We hear it often said that the global order is weakening. Perhaps it is, but one foundation remains unshaken: national interest. This is the only true compass of foreign policy, not abstract doctrines, not imposed ideologies, not artificial systems of values detached from the will of the people. Any system that seeks to override national interest will ultimately collapse, because what is not rooted in the people cannot endure. True international cooperation is not built on illusion. It is not built on reality. It is built on reality, and reality is simple. Nations act in their interests. When those interests are expressed through democratic will, cooperation becomes stronger, peace more durable, and order more stable. Today, we face a defining challenge: foreign interference. In an age of information warfare and invisible influence, sovereignty is no longer defended only at borders, it is defended within our institutions and societies. Protecting the integrity of our political system is no longer optional, it is essential. This is why nations are acting. This is why we see the emergence of legislative frameworks across the world. The Foreign Agents Registration Act in the United States, the Democracy Shield in the European Union, the Foreign Interference Law in France, the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme in the United Kingdom, or the Foreign Influence Transparency Law in Georgia. Though they differ in name, we see the same principle taking legal form. Democracy must be shaped by the people, not by foreign power. And yet, there are double standards. What is called protection in one country is labeled restriction in another. What is praised in one system is condemned in the next. This inconsistency undermines trust. If we are serious about cooperation, then the rules must be the same for all. Let me turn to my region, the South Caucasus. Once seen as volatile, it is becoming more stable and predictable. This is not accidental. It is the result of sovereignty in action. Georgia, Armenia, and Azerbaijan are increasingly acting in line with their national interests. And when sovereignty is respected, stability follows. In the Parliament of Georgia, we have made this choice clear. We have strengthened transparency, refined our legislation, acted to ensure that political power belongs to the people and to no one else. And we will continue to adapt, because a parliament that does not reflect reality will lose relevance. And a parliament that loses relevance cannot defend sovereignty. Peace is never guaranteed. Peace is responsibility. It requires vigilance, restraint, and long-term vision. Strong institutions, transparent system, forward-looking laws are not technicalities. They are the foundation of peace. And this is why we must act together. We must recognize foreign interference and hybrid warfare for what they are, one of the greatest threats to democracy and sovereignty in our time. And we must move beyond declarations. We must build a common, legally binding international framework, clear in principle, fair in application, and consistent in enforcement. Because sovereignty cannot be selective, and security cannot be one-sided. If we succeed, we will not only defend our states, we will strengthen peace, restore trust, and secure a more stable and just international order for generations to come. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Georgia. Colleagues, I would like to take this opportunity to introduce to you the Executive Secretary of the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, Dr. Robert Floyd. I would now be informing you that IPU has been working closely with this organization, and this Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization works on detecting nuclear explosions, and by that, ensuring compliance with the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. Needless to point out how damaging nuclear explosions are and how important an international verification system to detect them are. The IPU is proud that so many parliaments support this international organization in its goal for universal membership. It is my special pleasure on your behalf to welcome Dr. Robert Floyd, the Executive Secretary of CTBTO, to our Assembly, and he's going to address us. Sir, you have the floor. Oh, you have my back.
Speaking from behind.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Madam President, Secretary General, heads of parliament, distinguished parliamentarians, friends, this conference has a big theme: nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations. Let's think about that last part, the future generations. Imagine our grandparents or great-grandparents. 1 century ago, not long after the First World War had ended. A very different world. Only some 90 independent states. What did they expect for their future generation? For their children? For their grandchildren? For us here today in Istanbul? One thing they did not expect would be horrific new weapons, beyond anything that science at that stage could imagine. Bombs that could obliterate whole cities. Bombs with radioactive fallout going right around the planet. Yet, just 19 years later, such weapons had been invented and used. I've visited Hiroshima and Nagasaki. You see things that haunt the rest of your life. A tiny tricycle in the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Museum, Shinichi Tetsutani's tricycle. He was only 3 years old. He never grew up as a part of his own generation. He never lived to help shape other generations. Most people now can't grasp the scale of nuclear weapon testing in the decades after World War II. By the time I was 25, I'd lived through over 1,500 nuclear weapon tests. Many of you likewise, maybe. Over 1,500. It is so different now. Today's 25-year-old student has lived through just 6 announced nuclear tests, from 1,500 to only 6. So, what has changed? In 1996, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty was agreed, and IPU was there at the very start. Your resolutions, your 1995 and 1996 resolutions, showed the world's parliamentarians giving the treaty their full support, and I thank you. And you gave it full support for good reason. This treaty is a remarkable global achievement. It's created an amazing international monitoring system that can detect within minutes a suspected nuclear test anywhere on Earth or under Earth. The results are scientifically robust, reliable, transparent, shared promptly with all of the states that have signed and ratified the treaty. That's the vast majority of states in every continent. Now only 9 states have not signed the treaty. Just 9. Only 18 are still to sign and ratify it. And the IPU has been a valuable partner in getting the treaty so far and achieving so much. With your active support, we can bring those remaining states into the treaty family, those remaining 9, and end all explosive nuclear testing once and for all. There's so much to worry about in the world these days. If you're like me, you're nervous to check the news each morning. And what if it all gets far worse? Imagine the global outcry. Imagine the indignation, the anger if explosive nuclear weapon testing started again. The threat to our future generations. The sheer injustice for our future generations. I was at an African Union conference in 2024. Algeria's Foreign Minister, Ahmed Attaf, he said something that I've never forgotten. He said, "We didn't inherit our future from our ancestors, but we've borrowed it from our children. He is so right. He is so right. But we all were children, just like Georgina, who addressed you this morning. And sooner or later, we'll all be ancestors. It falls to us now. The choice can't be clearer. Do we just give up? Do we slump back into a world with devastating nuclear testing? Or do we stay on in the current wise, principled and just path with no nuclear testing? Every government, every parliament that you represent here today helps make that choice. Colleagues, as every parliamentarian knows, it's a proud moment to get elected. Voters have trusted you. You in turn have placed your trust in your eminent Secretary-General, Martin Chungong. He became IPU Secretary-General, as you all well know, in 2014, and shortly he'll be concluding his mandate. But under his leadership, the IPU has achieved so much, and I've been privileged to work with him in that time. I too was elected and was entrusted with my own position in 2021. And since then, with the support of IPU and many in this room, our treaty has gained 9 new ratifications. Perhaps some of those are present here today. Dominica, Equatorial Guinea, the Gambia, Papua New Guinea, Sao Tome and Principe, Solomon Islands, Sri Lanka, Timor-Leste, Tuvalu. And 1 new signature yet to ratify, Somalia. This is a testament to what we can do and achieve when we work together. So I thank you, IPU delegates, for this key partnership. And I say to Martin, your legacy inspires us, Martin, as we look to build a safer world for future generations, a world without explosive nuclear testing. I thank you all.
Thank you so much, Dr. Floyd, for sharing with us those insights. I believe as Member of Parliament, we have had him, and we will be working harder in our countries, especially those of us who have not probably ratified the treaty. Right now, I'm going to hand over the chair to Speaker Gafarova, who is going to now continue with the speakers list. So, Madam Gafarova, the chair is yours.
Thank you. So Iraq and Australia.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my honor to chair this last segment of the general debate. And now I call on Iraq speaker.
معالي رئيسة الاتحاد البرلماني الدولي.
Madam President of the IPU, Secretary General, Your Excellencies, heads and members of fellow parliamentary delegations, may the peace of God be with you. I'm delighted to be with you here today in Turkey at this assembly, and we sincerely hope that we have a very successful assembly, and we wish to express our sincere thanks to the Turkish authorities for the organization of the assembly. In Iraq and in the Arab world, we are convinced of the importance of peace and the rule of law. And I'd like to begin by talking about peace, because I'm convinced that securing lasting peace is the best way of contributing to stability and development. Peace in the Middle East region isn't just a political choice, It's a human, moral, and ethical obligation. Our peoples are tired of war. Our peoples seek a more peaceful future, where human dignity can be respected and where human rights are guaranteed, and so that they can achieve development. And to secure peace, we need a sincere political commitment on the part of all stakeholders, based on constructive dialogue, the recognition of legitimate rights, a refusal of violence. And that also means that the international community needs to play an effective role in seeking fair solutions, far from narrow interests. So our assembly is taking place at a historic moment. We are facing increasing challenges, an increasing number of conflicts, in particular in the Middle East region, a region that has suffered too much from wars, the impact of war on security and global peace. Let's not forget the rising fuel prices all over the world. So it's not appropriate to just insult each other. We've heard that from political representatives, and that isn't our duty. We must work seriously to try to put an end to war. And Iraq is determined to ensure that we put an end to war and blockades. It is our peoples who are paying the highest price for the consequences of these wars. And as representatives of our people, it is incumbent upon us to show a historic and moral responsibility. In Iraq, we have carried out an existential fight against terrorism, and we have eliminated some of the most dangerous terrorist groups in the world, including the Islamic State in Iraq. Thousands of people lost their lives in the context of that fight against terrorism. We continue to see human rights abuses carried out by the Zionist entity and the crimes that they have committed in the Gaza Strip and in Lebanon. We are seeing unprecedented human tragedies in the region. And the international community today faces a real test of its commitment to the founding values of the international community. Conflicts need to be resolved quickly, or we risk jeopardizing the future of humanity, and future generations risk facing a world without resources or security. In Iraq, we are trying to prosecute the terrorists of Islamic State. We've sentenced them to 20-year prison sentences, and yet we continue to face difficulties. And one terrorist was proud of sacrificing 10 members of a single family, including babies, and he was proud of that massacre that he committed. So the justice system in Iraq sentenced him to capital punishment, which was not carried out because we were accused of violating human rights. And yet this was a terrorist who killed 10 members of a single family. Today, we see that Palestinian prisoners are facing a law which will impose the death penalty upon them, and the international community remains silent. So it's our responsibility as legislators to focus our efforts to adopt laws that protect children, that's our number one priority, and protect the rights of future generations. We must protect them from the consequences of wars, conflict, and we must protect them from the consequences of the rapid development of technologies, including AI. So to conclude, we are fully committed to supporting all international efforts to secure peace and security. We urge parliaments all over the world to help to bring about a fairer and more stable world where human dignity is protected and the rights of peoples are guaranteed, and where we can nurture hope and secure peace for future generations. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your statement. And now I call on Speaker of Australia.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Gorova from Azerbaijan, my friend and colleague. Dear colleagues, may I begin my remarks by thanking our outgoing Secretary-General for his leadership in the IPU. I'm grateful for the opportunity to contribute to the debate on this important issue on behalf of the Australian Parliament. This year we celebrate 70 years of IPU membership. However, Australia's commitment to multilateralism began long before 1956. Australia was in fact first invited to join the IPU in 1906 by the co-founder Mr. William Randall Cremer. Despite the outbreak of World War I, which practically stopped interparliamentary engagement, Australia supported the IPU with an annual grant from 1915 to 1918 for its efforts in the pursuit of dialogue and peace. A year later, Australia became a founding member of the League of Nations and went on to be a founding signatory of the United Nations in 1945. Australia has continued to contribute to the international multilateral system not only through the IPU, but by also serving in peacekeeping roles every year since 1947. Serving on the UN Security Council 5 times and remaining the 12th largest contributor of the UN regional and peacekeeping budget. Civic engagement is one of the main pillars of maintaining a strong democracy for future generations. The Australian Parliament takes its role very seriously in ensuring our future generations have the skills and knowledge they need to become active and engaged citizens. We are proud of our Parliamentary Education Office, whose educators inspire young Australians through curriculum-aligned online and digital resources, outreach programs and teacher training. These resources are designed to give students from as young as 9 years old the information about our civics system. Australia has led the world in banning online social media platforms for under 16-year-olds. We are the first country in the world to deliver such an important reform, protecting children, making sure young people receive the information from their teachers, their parents, rather than what they're reading and simply seeing online. There are more than 3 million young people in Australia, and as future leaders across Parliament, civil society and business, it is vital they understand and engage in our democratic processes. This is a priority for me as a member of the IPU, as a member of the Executive Committee, and proudly as the Vice President of the Asia Pacific on the IPU Executive, and also as the Chairman on the Subcommittee of Finance for the Interparliamentary Union. But as the Speaker of the House of Representatives in Australia, it has been my personal mission to spearhead youth engagement with the Parliament. I have also developed and rolled out new programs to make civics education accessible to students around the country. I have personally visited almost 200 schools, including some of the most regional and remote schools in Australia. And as the Speaker, this year I will oversee 150 senior school students from across Australia who will participate in our country's first ever National Youth Parliament, an initiative I launched last year to enable students from across the country to gain a first-hand experience of Parliament and how our parliamentary system works. This is something I hope the Interparliamentary Union will consider rolling out across all geopolitical groups, empowering young people with the information of how our parliaments work for proper civics engagement will lead to stronger democratic traditions across every corner of the globe. As an island nation and as a person who lives in the Pacific, Australia shares a deep and enduring connection with our Pacifica family. We are committed to meaningful climate action, both at home and in partnership with our region, reflecting our responsibility to future generations. Australia has endorsed the 2050 strategy for the Blue Pacific continent as a framework for long-term collaboration on climate change, disasters, ocean and the environment. Our target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 62 to 70% below 2005 levels by 2035 is match support for Pacific Island countries to build resilience, access climate finance and share adaptation expertise. Living in the Pacific as part of the community, we all have a collective responsibility in our region, but so does the globe. Climate change is a multi-generational issue, and young people make up more than half of our region's population, and they are at the forefront of issues in Southeast Asia and across the Pacific. They deal with climate action and they want to see solutions. Youth-led initiatives are powerful drivers of change and resilience. I thank the Assembly and look forward to further dialogue on this critical and important issue. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for your statement. And I call on the Speaker of Niger. Mr. Speaker, you have the floor, please.
Thank you. It's okay. Madame la Présidente de l'Union interparlementaire,
President of the Interparliamentary Union, President of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, President of the sitting, Your Excellencies, heads of delegations, Secretary General of the Interparliamentary Union, honourable parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen. It's such an honour for me to speak to you on behalf of the Advisory Council of the recast of the Advisory Chamber of the Republic of Niger on the occasion of the 152nd Assembly of the Interparliamentary Union here in Istanbul. A historic crossroads of civilizations and a symbol of dialogue between peoples. And it's with a deep sense of our responsibilities and a renewed conviction that I seek to address the topic of our discussion, namely hope, peace, and justice for future generations. It's a triptych, one that is fundamental for humanity's future. Not just a slogan, but rather pillars that build a collective ambition, that build a world of peace, justice, and a future for our young generations. It's of particular relevance for Niger, which, for multiple years now, has been the target for terrorist attacks. These extremist groups which have taken root in the region bring with them a wake of violence. It's an external shock which makes local communities fragile and vulnerable. Ladies and gentlemen, ministers, their presence has had a dramatic effect on local populations with barbarous attacks, forced displacement, jeopardizing of public services, particularly the national education system, which means that the future of young people is exposed to risk and marginalization, a life being lost to conflict. Niger, together with the other member states, of the Alliance of Sahel States, categorically condemns this terrorism which is imposed from outside, and it would reaffirm its determination to continue to combat these armed groups. Most of them benefit from external support, which is driven by a vision that does not respect international order. Our combat for sovereignty, which began on the 26th of July 2023, will continue with the support of our populations who are fully aware now of what is at stake. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guest, the situation in the Sahel is unfortunately not an isolated example. Other regions of the world are also being seriously affected by these conflicts. We must recognize the situation in occupied Palestine and, more broadly speaking, the Middle East. These are crises that directly invoke our responsibility for our peoples and prompt us to reconsider our actions in order to respond to the aspirations of our populations, which are so deeply held. The peoples of the world who simply aspire to peace and security are too often abandoned by the political elites, and they are victims of disproportionate ambition, unrealistic sometimes, of certain leaders. Political leaders need to learn the lessons of the tragedies born of 2 global wars. The international governance system can be improved, but it needs to be respected. No state can be allowed to use force outside the framework of international law and without the mandate of the United Nations. Allow me to reaffirm the clear position of Niger's Advisory Council in full respect, namely the full respect of international law and the right of people to self-determination. In this context, cultivating hope is, first and foremost, a way of rebuilding trust between accessible legal systems, between citizens, and between public institutions. Justice needs to be accessible, understandable, and adapted to modern-day realities. Niger, by integrating a progressive modernization in its justice system, particularly by the application of digital technology, hopes to achieve this. Digitalizing procedures can contribute to reducing timeframes, strengthen transparency, and make data more secure. It also allows to bring justice closer to citizens, including in the more remote areas. Efforts are also being made to guarantee equitable access to justice, in particular in vulnerable populations. Legal support has been strengthened, particularly allowing an increasing number of citizens to have their rights recognized, particularly with regard to land ownership, which is a key issue for social stability. At the moment, our council is working on a land reform system in Niger. However, peace is a precondition for hope, and peace cannot be decreed. It is patiently built through dialogue, inclusion, and social justice. So Parliament's role here is key. We stand as the safeguards for democratic debate. We stand as the guarantors of achieving people's aspirations. We need to promote preventive mechanisms for peaceful conflict resolution, taking into account socio-cultural reality. In our experience, the involvement of traditional authorities and communities is essential for calming tensions and building social cohesion. Recourse to alternative modes of settling disputes, such as mediation and arbitration, which draw on the social values, can contribute greatly to a culture of dialogue. Building peace also requires a more human approach to criminal justice. Punishment cannot just be solely punitive, but also have an educational value. Improving the conditions of detention and programs of education will allow people who are deprived of their freedom to participate fully in this vision. Also, providing justice for future generations guarantees the independence, integrity, and effectiveness of legal and judicial institutions, That will need structural reforms to enhance transparency, ethics and governance. Parliaments have a key role here in ensuring that commitments on human rights are maintained. Active participation in international mechanisms such as Universal Periodic Review is a key element in strengthening the credibility of the state. In light of the modern challenges that we face, our collective responsibility is huge. We must ensure that our institutions are at the level to meet these challenges and represent our peoples. That requires greater parliamentary action based on a spirit of solidarity and dialogue, which also marks the Interparliamentary Union. Building hope, peace and justice are not separate objectives. They are all part of the same project for a stabler, fairer, more human world. So I'd like to express my gratitude to the IPU and Turkey's Grand National Assembly for the extremely warm welcome we have received in coming to this 152nd Assembly. And also my thanks go to the Turkish authorities. Their hospitality, I'm sure, will be a great contribution to the success of our work. Thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your statement. I call on Speaker of Armenia.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman, Excellencies, fellow parliamentarians, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor to accept the gracious invitation of Turkey and address the 152nd IPU Assembly on behalf of the National Assembly of the Republic of Armenia. As we discuss the theme, nurturing hope, securing peace and ensuring justice for future generations, I would like to observe that the importance of this topic cannot be overstated. At the risk of stating a truism, a flourishing present and a future are built on a foundation of hope, peace and justice. For Armenia, this notion informs our policies and impels our actions. We strive for a future in which everyone shares the same opportunities for social and economic prosperity. But who can only dream about a better future and who can actually create it? Future generations cannot construct the world they will inherit. At best, they can only entrust us to act prudently on their behalf. Hope sustains our passion for justice and our capacity to trust. Our actions today must serve to build that trust. The coming generations need to believe that the peace we build today will endure. Make no mistake, the fractures in our world are deep and severe. We are profoundly troubled by the situation in Iran, and my prayers go out to the Iranian people. The crisis in Lebanon cannot be ignored. To be sure, the test we face is formidable. Yet, who but us has the power and the moral obligation to heal our world? Armenia fully accepts its responsibility. Following the 2025 agreement signed by the leaders of Armenia, Azerbaijan and the US, peace has prevailed in our region, marking a truly monumental achievement. But our vision is grander. We invite Turkey to be partners and join us in weaving a tapestry of peace. To this end, we are eager to deepen our relationship with Turkey. After decades of suspicion and ill will, a new era of confidence building between Armenia and Azerbaijan has dawned. Efforts to consolidate this progress are now focused on strengthening communication and ensuring that peace is effectively translated into concrete relations on the ground. The recent implementation of the framework for the TRIP road for international peace and prosperity, TRIP, represents another milestone. This initiative aims to both create regional connectivity and expand international trade routes. Based on the principles of sovereignty, territorial integrity, and jurisdiction, TRIP has the potential to promote stability, economic cooperation, and prosperity across the South Caucasus and beyond. Encouraging signs of normalization are unmistakable. For the first time in years, trade between Armenia and Azerbaijan is beginning to emerge. The recent import of Azerbaijani goods into Armenia marks a symbolic and practical step toward rebuilding economic ties. These are the dividends of peace, tangible improvement. At the same time, must be resolved, but continue building trust and achieve genuine reconciliation. The 90 Armenians still detained in Azerbaijan should be released and reunited with their families, and
It's on.
Be clarified. Colleagues, now it is the time to set priorities, and for the sake of posterity, we must choose them wisely. Who, let us not forget, are the succeeding generations. They are our children and grandchildren. It is our solemn duty to be worthy of them by leaving a legacy, not of war, but of the peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your statement. And now I call the Speaker of Nepal.
Madam President, Excellencies, Speakers and Chairpersons of National Parliament, distinguished members of Parliament, special representatives, ladies and gentlemen, Namaste and warm greetings. On behalf of the Federal Parliament of Nepal, I feel distinctly honored to address this august gathering of parliamentarians from around the world at this 152nd IPU Assembly, hosted in this historic and beautiful city, Istanbul. I, along with my delegation, would like to extend warm gratitude to the government, parliament, and people of Turkey, as well as to the IPU, for successfully convening this assembly and warm hospitality. I bring with me the greetings from the Federal Parliament of Nepal for the success of this assembly. Excellency, the world is currently facing perma-crisis. It is grappling with major problems such as geopolitical competition, proliferation of worldwide conflicts, climate change, deepening economic crisis, increasing inequality, and youth unemployment, along with challenges posed by these problems. At the same time, state-of-the-art technologies like artificial intelligence have accelerated societal changes, resulting in new challenges like digital and AI divides between and within states. In reality, these crises are not isolated by nature. Rather, they are interrelated. In order to tackle these challenges, it is imperative to take collective, visionary, and inclusionary initiatives. In this backdrop, the theme of this General Assembly, nurturing hope, securing peace, and ensuring justice for future generations, is exceptionally relevant and timely to the current situation. I am confident that the decision we take today as the people's representatives will make significant contribution to determining future of the new generations. Excellency, may I make a few points about the actions we take to tackle in the role we need to play to bring about concrete and positive changes in people's lives by translating the theme into practice in ensuring peace and security, prosperity, human dignity, and sustainability in the world. First, it is essential to give priority to the youth-centric vision, policy, and programs to uphold and strengthen hope and trust towards the future. It is noteworthy to share that following the elections of the House of Representatives in Nepal, recently held in the aftermath of the Gen Z movement, almost half of the elected members of House of Representatives are youth. And Nepal has welcomed a 35-year-old Balendra Saha as the new Prime Minister of Nepal. This has inspired not only youth in Nepal, but also of the world. The election result has not only enhanced political inclusion and representation, but also endorsed new energy. Second, inclusiveness is the prerequisite to ensure peace, prosperity, human dignity, and sustainability. To achieve this, we must guarantee representation on the basis of inclusion in every entity, level, and institution, including the parliament. I feel pride in informing this assembly that by ensuring rights of women, Dalits, indigenous nationalities, Madhesi, and other marginalized community, through strong commitment, a proportional election system, there are currently 35.32% women lawmakers in the Federal Parliament of Nepal. In addition, the parliamentary committees have made the government accountable through transparency and policy reviews. Third, it is very essential to addressing the differences and challenges in development. I would like to iterate our strong belief that peace is unattainable without development and development without peace. Fourth, the climate change has emerged as a catastrophic threat to today's world. Therefore, it is imperative to ensure climate justice to impacted and vulnerable countries in upcoming generations. Despite having negligible contribution to global greenhouse gases emissions, Nepal is facing extremely high risks from the impacts of climate change. With rise of temperature in Himalayan region, it has resulted in changes in snowfall phenomena, melting of ice, glacier, lake outburst, flood, and changes in water flow system, causing significant rise in environmental problems. It has negatively impacted in livelihood, biodiversity, and balance of ecosystems. However, Nepal is firmly committed to net zero emissions by 2045 through promotion of renewable energy, implementation of adaptation programs, and to achieve SDGs. Through parliamentary diplomacy, Nepal has collaborated in forging common understanding of issues like sustainable development, climate change, mitigation, and mobilizations of researchers through cooperation with parliaments and governments of other countries at international forums. It has been promoting consensual, cooperative, and inclusive policy through discussions with concerned stakeholders. Fifth, we need to emphasize technological and digital inclusion and transformation. The rapid development of digitization and AI are playing a crucial role in governance system and contributing to the public service delivery, including in agriculture, health, in ensuring economic growth. However, the growing divide between AI and digital access are matters of compensation. In order to address this, Nepal is persistent in her approach for the development of the country. Excellency, I'd like to highlight that hope is cornerstone for positive change, and peace is not merely absence of war. Rather, it is the condition emanating from mutual cooperation, respect, and coordination between people and nations. Let us reignite hope, consolidate peace, and ensure justice Along with cooperation, let us establish such a world where upcoming generations can live in dignified, secure, and prosperous life. Nepal is firm and committed to multilateral cooperation and is always ready to move forward together, soldier to soldier, with you all in this shared journey. Let us join hands in this collective endeavor. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for your statement. And now I call on Speaker of South Africa.
Followed by Palestine, maybe.
Madam Speaker, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, who is our chair for tonight. Honorable members who are here, speakers, presiding officers, and members of parliament and staff. At the outset, I express sincere appreciation to the Speaker of the Grand National Assembly and the Grand National Assembly of Turkey for the warm hospitality and excellent arrangements in hosting this 152nd Assembly. Madam Chairperson, this assembly takes place at a moment when contemporary global conflicts and polarization are taking place. This reminds us that peace is an essential pillar to sustain democratic stability. In the same vein, there is a need to ensure that we continuously safeguard instruments that sustain and nurture peace. In every region of the world, unresolved grievances, widening social divides, and deepening political tensions continue to erode trust from citizens and weaken institutions. It is in this context that the role of parliaments becomes more vital than ever. Parliaments are not only legislative institutions, they are constitutional spaces where differing views are addressed through debate rather than confrontation. It is where the collective will of a nation is shaped through engagement. When parliaments function well, they absorb tension and which might otherwise spill into instability. Across the world, trust in public institutions has become increasingly fragile. Citizens question whether democratic institutions truly serve their interest and whether those entrusted with authority are held accountable. I'm sure in every country like my own, such questions confront us on a daily basis. But it is how, as Parliament, we take deliberate and concrete steps to rebuild Parliament confidence and strengthen democratic legitimacy. Madam Chairperson, honorable members, our theme directs us in finding ways in which we can nurture hope, secure peace, and ensure justice for future generations. It is how do we nurture hope becomes important, particularly if today's global systems and institutions are weaker than they were before. How do we nurture hope when instruments for securing peace are disregarded, and the majority of us seemingly losing hope by the day? But it is important also, honorable member, that we remember the words of one of our young people today who was our special guest, who says there's still hope. When we look at children and their faces, we must remember that hope exists. However, such hope needs nurturing, needs strengthening, needs us to take actions, not tomorrow, but today. Honorable members, the Charter for the Declaration of Human Rights remains important. But it is worrying that it is many of our countries at times who are becoming our own enemies, which weakens such instruments. I also want to indicate that regional communities and different continental structures such as my own, the Pan-African Parliament, as well as the African Union, which has Instruments such as the Safety and Security Architecture, which lays the foundation of how we can secure peace for our citizens. Even that too remains fragile. Hence, conflicts and wars continue unabated. But we cannot lose hope. We need to continuously engage, continuously dialogue, but also continue to intervene when necessary. Today, as this Assembly of Parliaments, we're here to share views on how we can nurture hope and secure peace for the next generation. What is important also, from Georgina earlier on, she said those engagements must include what we regard as the future, which is our young people. Let me share what South Africa did at the birth of our democracy in 1994 in dealing with historical conflict. We resolved to enter into negotiation with those who were our adversaries, not because it was easy, but because we understood that if we had to face the issues that had pulled us apart, we will not build a nation. We chose the platform, such as the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which allowed us to tell each other what had happened during the conflict and encourage some of us to ensure that those lives were lost can be accounted for. Subsequently, our constitutional framework ensured that we address the injustices of the past. In our case, and in some countries in our region, land dispossession and racial discrimination ensured that the majority of citizens were rendered landless at the stroke of a pen. Cognizant of this reality, our Constitution ensured that land reform would be undertaken to address land inequality in our country. Our Constitution, which is 30 years this year, was also cognizant of the gender inequality which had been there. It is for that reason that our Constitution ensured that the Equality Clause become part of our supreme law of the land, allowing women's participation in politics, in business, and every other aspect of society. Madam President, honorable members, nurturing peace must remain part of the national and global agenda. Our own experience tells us that the journey of building a nation remains fragile if the democratic dividends remain elusive to many. Equally, if resolutions at multilateral levels do not translate to tangible action, trust in them diminish. Parliaments need to ensure that programmatic interventions are put in place to address the impact of injustices and resolve the increasing wave of conflict. Securing peace, Madam Chairperson and members, and ensuring justice requires strengthening and upholding the independence of the judiciary. Equitable access to judicial services is equally paramount for functioning of democracy, even at a multilateral level. I also want to come to the experience of the IPU, that when faced with the challenge of the conflict between Russia and Ukraine, IPU took concrete steps to intervene. And I'm sure, faced with the challenges in the conflict involving Iran, the United States, and Israel, we can, as this IPU, find a better way in which we can keep hope alive, ensure that we can engage and have dialogue amongst various parliaments, so that we can encourage our executives to find ways in which there can be ways of resolving such conflict. We, as the Parliament of South Africa, reaffirms our commitment to working with fellow parliaments to build a just, peaceful, and resilient global community. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. And I call on Speaker of Palestine. The last speaker. This is the last speaker in our list of speakers.
if you would please allow me with an emotional expression and comment. Today in the morning, all of us saw the debate between the smart and the beautiful Tanzanian girl, which aroused in us the future we hope to be a safe and safety and peaceful. But in the dark side, it reminds me about the children in Gaza. Thousands of our children in Gaza are killed by the Israeli army. And thousands of them lost their whole families. And 100,000 lost father or mother. I would like to remind you about the children in Gaza, in Palestine. Thank you so much. Let me to deliver my speech. Bismillah.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, Your Excellency, Speaker of the Grand National Assembly of Turkey, Your Excellency, President of the IPU, Your Excellency, Secretary General of the IPU, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may the peace, mercy, and blessings of God be upon you all. On behalf of the Palestinian National Council, I have the honor to extend our thanks to the International Parliamentary Union for organizing this assembly. I should also like to thank the Turkish Republic for hosting us so generously and graciously, so as to best reflect the importance of joint parliamentary action in the face of increasing international challenges, and as an expression of the importance of strengthening cooperation among peoples in a world that is currently undergoing accelerating challenges. Ladies and gentlemen, our meeting is held at a very critical moment of our history, a moment during which we see international law eroding, a moment during which conflicts and tensions are escalating. This makes it incumbent upon parliaments to shoulder a double responsibility in defending justice and rejecting realpolitik, but also preserving whatever is left of the credibility of the international community. In this regard, we reject all forms of military escalation in this region. We reaffirm that Israel is the direct culprit of reigniting tensions and destabilizing the region through its repeated and unjustified attacks against countries of our region. This is a blatant violation of international law. At the same time, the Palestinian National Council condemns with the strongest of terms the attacks waged by Iran against a number of Arab states in the Gulf region and in Jordan. We reject any aggression that undermines the sovereignty or security of Arab countries. We warn that such an escalation will further widen the scope of this conflict and will further undermine international stability. Ladies and gentlemen, the Palestinian people is facing an unprecedented escalation in Israeli policies and practices which amount to grave and systematic violations of international law. These undermine directly and unabatedly the human rights of the Palestinian people in all territories, amidst a lack of international accountability, most dangerous of which the so-called law on the death penalty for Palestinian prisoners. This is a very alarming turning point. It seeks to legalize intentional homicide. It is a flagrant violation of the Geneva Conventions and international law, and this directly undermines the right of prisoners to life. We further reiterate that jeopardizing the lives of prisoners is a red line for us, and we hold the occupying forces responsibility for any practices that are done to implement such illegal steps, and we have prepared a statement on behalf of some participating delegations rejecting this law. It will be distributed to you all, and we beseech you to sign this petition stemming from your belief in the values and principles of the IPU, namely the protection of human rights and protecting human dignity. At the same time, the West Bank is also witnessing an alarming escalation in terms of the aggressions perpetrated by settlers within a de facto policy. They are seeking to impose new realities at the level of settlements by expanding them and building new conglomerations. They are unleashing settler violence against innocent, unarmed civilians, supported by the occupying authorities. These aggressive policies put a great strain on the efforts of peace, the efforts to build a viable Palestinian state. These lead to the erosion of Palestinian lands. It isolates cities and villages of Palestinian people. We need to move urgently to stop these violations and provide protection to the Palestinian people. In parallel, the occupying authorities are still hijacking Palestinian tax money. This is another flagrant violation of international law and the signed conventions. This deprives the Palestinian people of its rights, its financial rights, and leads to further deterioration of the economic situation. In Jerusalem, aggressions and attacks are still being perpetrated against Islamic and Christian holy sites, including Al-Aqsa mosques and the Holy Sepulchre. This is another attempt to impose a de facto situation that changes the religious and historic identity of our city by changing the laws and by imposing a new reality that undermines the custodianship of the Hashemite Kingdom of Jordan over the holy Christian and Islamic sites. This is a very dangerous development, and it undermines the chances of peace. In the Gaza Strip, the humanitarian situation is still deteriorating in light of the wide-scale destruction of infrastructure, housing units, and critical vital facilities. Restrictions are still being imposed on the access to humanitarian assistance. This compounds the suffering of innocent civilians. This is a true test for the international community. This includes the responsibility to guarantee unfettered access to humanitarian aid, to halt attacks and breaches of the ceasefire, and the full withdrawal of Israeli occupation forces. This would guarantee the basic living conditions that are the right of each and every citizen of this world. Ladies and gentlemen, the lack of international accountability undermines trust in the international law system. This calls upon parliaments to play a more proactive role in support of international laws and hold the perpetrators of violations accountable. The Palestinian cause will forever remain a true test of the international community's attachment and commitment to justice and human rights. Peace cannot be achieved without ending the occupation, without allowing the Palestinian people to have its own independent state with East Jerusalem as its capital. We reaffirm the importance of the role that the IPU can play in promoting accountability and push towards more just and fair and equitable positions so as to best reflect the values upon which this union was built. We count on your support in our efforts to restore stability and to confront policies that threaten regional and international security and stability, and also to work towards building a more fair and just world. Thank you. May the peace, mercy, and blessings of Allah be upon you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, we have received 2 requests for a right for reply from Iran and Rwanda. And I'd like to say that each delegation will have only 2 minutes from their seats. And now I call on Iran. You have 2 minutes, please.
Bismillah al-Qasim al-Jabbar.
In the name of Allah, the most compassionate, the most merciful, in response to representative of Qatar, in first part of his speech, he talked about the necessity of talks and peaceful negotiations in order to prevent tensions. I fully agree with his views. But in second part of his speech, the Qatari representative talked very unfair. Our Qatari friends were witness that the Israeli Zionist regime and the U.S. started and imposed 2 wars within 10 months against my country. The American terrorist forces in CENTCOM, in Qatar, in the Qatari Al Udeid base, they attacked our country from that base and used the aircrafts in order to attack our Natanz nuclear enrichment facility, which is fully for peaceful purposes. What was your position regarding these aggressions against my country? You did not condemn these attacks and aggression. At least we enjoyed the legitimate right to self-defense. But regarding Bahrain, the implied statements made by the Bahraini representative were made in a way that in fact an agent was talking for Israel and the United States. What was the reason to allocate some spaces to the Americans to establish this base in Bahrain? So Bahrain is a small country, and 3 million square meters have been allocated to American forces in the shape of the bases or hotels or residences. So this is the 5th American Navy fleet, which is used against my country to attack my country. They have been attacking military, civilian, industrial, as well as recreational centers in my country. They used these facilities to attack my country. It has been for 40 years that you are paying the salaries of the U.S. forces in your country. Today, it has been clear that these bases are solely created against the benefits and interests of the Islamic Republic of Iran. We had not taken any action because we were waiting to see the function of these bases. Today, it was clear in these 2 aggressive wars against us, you are accomplices. Bahrain and the Bahraini government. Americans, when realized that they could not defeat Iran on battle, so they sent messages through Oman, Turkey, Pakistan, and Egypt. They requested talks and negotiations. If, like the previous negotiations, if they do not bombard the table of negotiations, if they bombard the table of negotiations, if they end the talks, if you provide facilities to the Americans to attack Iran, so you will be strongly responded so that you will forget your own names. You will see the anger from the Iranian armed forces against your country. We expected the representative of Palestine to talk about the innocence of Gaza and more than 70,000 martyrs in Gaza, to talk about Gazan infants, to talk about Gazan women, but he did not mention those things. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Now I call Rwanda. Please
Thank you,
take
Madam
into
President.
considerations that you have only 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. I take the floor to dismiss the repetitive and the false accusations by the Democratic Republic of Congo's delegation against my country, Rwanda. Allow me to clarify the following. The conflict in EDRC is between the government of DRC and the AFC M23, a movement of Congolese who are fighting for their rights. Over 260 armed groups are actively operating in DRC. Among them, there is a DRC-backed FDLR, an armed group created by the remnants responsible for killing more than 1 million innocent people during the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda in 1994. This armed group, FDLR, is continuing to pose an existential threat to Rwanda. On 27th of June 2025, at Washington, D.C., Rwanda and DRC signed the peace agreement aimed at bringing lasting peace to the DRC and the region. We call upon the DRC to take concrete actions toward the implementation of the Washington Peace Agreement, which includes the dismantling of FDLR, rather than continuing playing a political game in the IPU Assembly. I thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, today's session comes to the end, and I'd like to announce that the shuttles for the speaker's dinner will leave in a few minutes at the exit on this floor M4 of the hotel. And I'd like to say that the general debate will reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. Thank you very much.